The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look at my soul. I've been afraid I would follow alone. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Welcome into a Tuesday edition of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Running Point presented, as always, by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. If you're looking for a new or slightly used automobile, do check out the good folks at Greenwood Chevrolet, located on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Fantastic sales department, a great finance department, and a supreme service department. It all adds up to an obvious choice. Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. With you right up until 3 o'clock, at which time DJ and the fellas will take you through the 3 o'clock hour with the Power Hour. I will be in Crestview tonight alongside my partner Larry Scragg, and we will be broadcasting the Crestview East Liverpool game. East Liverpool opened up their 2021 basketball season with a loss to Struthers this past Friday night at the iconic Fieldhouse in Struthers. Potters will be playing game number 2. I believe the Rebels are playing game number 7, if I'm not mistaken. I believe they're 3-3 on the campaign. So it'll be an interesting game tonight at Rebels Gym in Crestview, as Crestview takes on the East Liverpool Potters. 5:30 is when the JV game starts. The varsity game is supposed to start at 7 o'clock, and of course everyone knows the drill by now. 7 o'clock varsity start means the JV game start at 5:30. You're at the mercy of the JV game. JV game goes long, game's going to start a little after 7. JV game goes short, you're going to start a little before 7 o'clock. So there you go. All right, girls basketball last night in the area. Mooney played Fitch for the second time in a matter of days. Different game, same result. Mooney gets a 53-42 win over Fitch. Cardinal Mooney now 4-1. They began the year losing to Crestview at Rebels Gym. They have since ripped off 4 wins in a row. Lowville goes to 3-2 on the campaign as they knock off Wellsville last night, 43-31. United continues their winning ways. They come from behind, outscore Jackson Milton 16-9 in the fourth quarter. They get a 47-46 victory over Jackson Milton. West Branch too strong for Boardman. They beat the Spartans 65-28. Boardman now 1-4 and they're struggling from the field. They're not doing very well putting the ball in the basket. And you can play solid defense, but if you don't put the biscuit in the basket, you're not going to win many games. Leetonia destroyed Heartland Christian last night, 60-32. Keep an eye on Ella Gregorino, just a sophomore. That class, and I'm almost positive that not all of them have transferred and gone on to play high school basketball. But that class in junior high ball, I want to say between 7th and 8th grade, they lost 2 games in their 2 years. I'm pretty sure that was the number. Ella Gregorino is part of that sophomore class. She threw down 17 points in the victory. Taryn Ferry also contributed with 17 points in the win. Taryn's a senior. Ella Gregorino just a sophomore. Leetonia gets their 4th win in 5 tries. We made mention yesterday, Dana Ballish reported this, that Mark Asen was in line to replace Brian Merrow as the head football coach at Youngstown East. Well, that was made official yesterday. Asen was approved as Justin Jennings, the CEO of the Youngstown City School District, approved the hiring, quoting Mr. Jennings, "We're looking forward to a great 2021 Golden Bears football season with Coach Asen at the helm. He brings a lot of leadership and experience, and I know our scholar athletes will learn a lot from him." Asen, pretty good coach. He led Jackson Milton to 2 playoff berths, and up until those 2 playoff berths, Jackson Milton had never found the postseason. But he'll be an interesting choice for the job at East, and I think a solid choice. Not that Coach Merrow didn't do a good job. I think Coach Merrow did a very fine job. Unfortunately, when Cheney and East broke off and went their separate ways, and now you have 2 city schools in the city of Youngstown. Took an awful lot of football talent away from East, but we'll see what happens there. But I love the hire. I think that Mark Asen will do a fantastic job. So we can talk a little bit about that if you wish. The MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business, 330-886-0813. That's 330-886-0813. The slide of the Steelers continues. And ladies and gentlemen, the AFC North is now officially in play. Now, all is not lost for Pittsburgh. As a matter of fact, Pittsburgh could still get the number 1 seed. Now, it's highly unlikely, given the way the Steelers are playing, but it could happen. What needs to happen? Well, Kansas City would need to lose out. By the way, they're playing Atlanta, who blew another large lead to a Tom Brady-led team. Stop if you've heard that one before. Kind of doubt very seriously if Kansas City loses both of their games, but it is possible. Steelers could also get the 2 seed. Wow, well, it's real simple. They and the Bills are now tied for the 2nd spot, obviously. Steelers win out. Buffalo stubs their toe. Pittsburgh gets the 2 seed. Pittsburgh could stay at the 3 seed. Could fall to the 4 seed. Now remember, the Steelers are in the playoffs. They clinched a playoff spot last week, even though they lost. They clinched a playoff spot. Steelers could get the 4 seed. Indianapolis and Tennessee right now tied for first place, 10-4 records. Tennessee has the tiebreaker. Steelers are 11-3. Let's say the Steelers beat the Browns, but they wind up losing to the Colts. All right, now you're looking at 11-5. Tennessee or Indianapolis win out, 12-4. You're now the 3 seed. You're now the 4 seed. You finish out 12-4, you're now the 4 seed. Even if the Bills go 1-1, you're still the 4 seed. The only way you're not the 4 seed is if the Bills lose out. They have New England on Monday, and they finish out the season with the Miami Dolphins. Steelers could have the 5 seed. Oh, this is where things get interesting, kids. Steelers lose out. Browns win out. Browns win the division. Steelers are potentially a 5 seed. The Steelers cannot get a 7 seed. They can't get a 7 seed. At least I don't believe that is the case. Let me quickly run through the scenarios. If Baltimore is the team that Pittsburgh would have all the advantages with. Let's say the Steelers and the Colts and the Dolphins. They might be able to do a 7. I'd have to look and see. But they could finish anywhere from 1. I'm going to say 5 or 6. I don't think they can get to 7. I'd have to really look into the numbers. Anywhere from 1 to 6, maybe 7. But the Steelers are in the playoffs. And Steeler fans can hang their hat on that because, well, you can't hang your hat on the last 3 games. Steelers have looked horrible. By the way, you have to go back, and I mean way back, in the way back machine. Prior to the AFL and the NFL combining, The last time a team started the season 11-0 and lost 4 straight games, you're going back to the 1969 NFL season. This would be the last year prior to the AFL and the NFL merging. This particular year would have been Super Bowl IV, Minnesota versus Kansas City. The Los Angeles Rams playing in the Western Division, because back then there was the West, there was the Central, there was the Century, and there was the Coastal. Actually, I take that back. The Coastal, Century, Central, I think there was a Western Division. Actually, they were in the Coastal Division. Anyway, Rams start out the year 11-0. Keep in mind, back in 69, you only played 14 games. Rams started out 11-0 back in 1969. This is the last time a team has lost 4 games in a row after breaking off and winning the first 11 games. The Los Angeles Rams then proceeded to lose their final 3 regular season games. They lost in Minnesota, they lost to Detroit at home, and they lost to Baltimore. So they limp into the playoffs 11-3, and they take on the winner of the Central Division, the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota gets them again in Bloomington at the old Metropolitan Stadium, 23-20. And the Los Angeles Rams, who began the 69 season undefeated through 11 of the 14 regular season games, lose the final 3 regular season games. They lose their playoff game. They're out of the playoffs. And what looked to be a team that was destined to go to Super Bowl IV didn't even get out of the first round of the playoffs. And who knows if they would have lost more games. Unfortunately, for the current Steelers, the 69 Rams, as I said, only played 14 games. So last 3 regular season games, playoff game. That is right now the record. That is right now the record for futility for a team that has started out 11-0. Los Angeles Rams lost 4 games in a row back in 69. If the Steelers lose to the Indianapolis Colts this week in Pittsburgh, the Steelers would share that record. More importantly, if you're a Steeler fan, if the Browns happen to beat the Jets, the AFC Northern Division title is up for grabs, winner take all, as far as the division goes. Here's where things get really interesting. Contrary to popular belief, the Browns are not in the playoffs yet. They have not clinched anything. Far from it, I should say. Because here's an interesting anecdote. And obviously, as someone who roots for the Browns, except, of course, when they play my Bills, who right now are the 2 seed in the AFC, but we'll stop right there. The Browns could be 11-5 and not even make the playoffs. We'll explain in a little bit. Let's say the Browns beat the Jets. That, I don't want to say it's a foregone conclusion, but it's a pretty good possibility. Indianapolis goes into Pittsburgh. If the slide continues, all right, Steelers are 11-4, Browns are 11-4, and the division is up for grabs. Now, what could make things even more interesting is Miami's playing the Las Vegas Raiders on Saturday night. Let's assume for a second that Miami beats Las Vegas. Baltimore is hosting the New York Giants, who right now are, 1 game in back of Washington, and they pretty much need to win a game. Otherwise, if Washington wins and the Giants lose, well, the division is Washington's. By the way, Washington hosts Carolina. There is a pretty good chance the Washington Football Club, I knew I was going to do that, the Washington Football Club would win the division. But back to the Browns and this conundrum. Let's assume for a second that Baltimore defeats the New York Giants. Miami defeats the Las Vegas Raiders. Miami goes to 10-5. Baltimore goes to 10-5. Let's assume for a second that Indianapolis beats Pittsburgh. The only way that Cleveland can still be in the divisional race. Pittsburgh has to lose out. Cleveland has to win out. So Indianapolis beats Pittsburgh. They go to 11-4. The Browns, they beat the Jets. They go to 11-4. Things look pretty good. Let's even go a step further and say Tennessee loses on Sunday night to Green Bay. And that's a pretty good chance because Green Bay is fighting for the number 1 seed in the AFC, plus it's at Lambeau. So Tennessee goes to 10-5. Well, this is interesting. Indianapolis, with 1 win, wins the division. Tennessee goes to 10-5. They have an interdivisional game, I believe, against Houston in Week 17, which they should probably win. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Indianapolis is 11-4. Tennessee is 10-5. The Browns are 11-4. The Ravens are 10-5. The Dolphins are 10-5. And the Steelers and Browns are 11-4. Okay. Winner take all in Week 17, Browns and Steelers. Now, if the Browns win, they win the division. But let's say the Steelers wake up. They wake up from this god-awful nightmare of theirs, 4-game losing streak at this point, and they knock off the Browns. And the Browns finish the season 11-5. Oh, but things could get worse here's what I'm talking about. Tennessee wins, 11-5. Baltimore and Miami both win, 11-5. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cleveland Browns do not make the playoffs. Why? Because the Baltimore Ravens have all the tiebreakers over the Cleveland Browns, and because of that, they will continue to put the Browns in the number 8 spot until the Ravens are eliminated. The problem with this, the Baltimore Ravens in this scenario are the 7 seed because they didn't do too well against Tennessee, and they don't have as good of a conference record as the Miami Dolphins. Hence, Baltimore is the 7 seed. And because Baltimore beat Cleveland twice, Cleveland would be the 8 seed. Cleveland doesn't get into the playoffs. It's an interesting conundrum for the Browns. Now, the Browns could get the 2 seed. This is fun. The Browns could get the 2 seed. How, you ask? Oh, this is easy. The Cleveland Browns beat the Jets. They beat the Steelers. They finished 12-4. Well, it doesn't matter if Indianapolis or Tennessee finishes the season 12-4. After all, the Browns have beaten both Indianapolis and Tennessee, so the head-to-head would go to Cleveland. The rub here is the Browns would have to have Buffalo lose their final 2 games, where the Bills would lose to New England on Monday night, and then they would lose to Miami on the final Sunday. Here's where things get really, really interesting. By the way, we're going to have a quiz in about 2 minutes. Let's assume that everything about what we said 2 minutes ago stays true. Let's assume that for a second. Indianapolis wins, and I'm going to say Tennessee wins too, just for shits and giggles. So they're both 11-4. Buffalo's 11-4. The Steelers and the Browns are 11-4. The Ravens are 10-5. The Dolphins are 10-5. Okay, here we go. This is where things get fun. Indianapolis, they're gonna. Let's say that they win, 12-4, and Tennessee wins, 12-4. Well, one of them's got to get out, so that's obviously pretty obvious who's going to get out here. That's going to be Indianapolis. Tennessee wins the division at 12-4. So Indianapolis becomes automatically the 1 seed, unless, of course, even if the Browns win the division. But we're not trying to go there for a second. Browns are leading the Steelers. And Miami is leading Buffalo in the 4th quarter with all this stuff. We got to back up and have and make sure that this is all good. Tennessee loses, so they're 10-5. All right, Tennessee's leading, so they would go to 11-5 with a win. Baltimore's leading, they would go to 11-5 and a win. Miami's beating Buffalo. They would go to 11-5 with a win. And the Browns are beating the Steelers. And then midway through the fourth quarter, the Steelers get a go-ahead touchdown. And now all of a sudden the Browns are trailing the Steelers, but Miami's still beating Buffalo. There is the possibility where the rooting interests of Browns fans might be switching every scoring opportunity in week number 17. This is actually quite fascinating. Now the key in all of this for Steeler fans is, despite your 3-game losing streak, you're still in the playoffs, and ultimately Pittsburgh might very well get the last laugh in all of this because, again, the Steelers are already in the postseason. The Browns are not. Even though the Browns have looked pretty impressive the last few weeks, they're still not in the postseason, and Pittsburgh is. If this happens this week, and then we'll stop and take some phone calls. If the following happens this week, Browns fans' emotions are going to switch, and their allegiance, I might add, are going to switch on a dime after looking at every single score and with every potential scoring change. Here is what would happen. Buffalo losing to New England. Now, if they win and Pittsburgh loses, Browns fans, you can breathe a heavy sigh of relief because Buffalo probably won't play most of their regulars because, well, you don't need to because they've already clinched the 2 seed. A Buffalo win and a Pittsburgh loss, Bills are the 2 seed, which is bad news for the Browns because, well, if Buffalo happens to beat New England and let's say Pittsburgh does lose and the Browns win, yeah, you're playing for the AFC Northern Division Championship, but you're also looking at this knowing that Buffalo, in all likelihood, will be resting most of their regulars. And if Miami is 10-5, which they need to be for the scenario to be real here, Browns fans are going to be on pins and needles, especially if they wind up losing this game to the Steelers. So here's the scenario where Browns fans could be changing allegiance with every score. Buffalo wins on Monday night against New England. Pittsburgh loses to Indianapolis. Doesn't matter what Tennessee does. Tennessee's irrelevant in all of this. I mean, they could win, they could lose, it doesn't matter. Miami and Baltimore both win. But let's assume for a second Tennessee doesn't win because they're playing Green Bay. So let's give Tennessee a loss. Going into the final week of the 2020 NFL season, here would be the standings. Kansas City has the number 1 seed. Buffalo has the number 2 seed. And then this is where the fun begins. The Steelers are 11-4. The Browns are 11-4. Indianapolis is 11-4. Tennessee, Miami, and Baltimore are all 10-5. If this scenario happens, Browns fans, you will be having 1,000,005 different emotions on the final Sunday of the season should the Browns stub their toe against the Steelers. This is fun. Let's go to the phone lines. Champ, you're on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, a lot of interesting scenarios, and it basically comes down right now is, do you want to make the playoffs or you don't want to win the division? But, I'll simplify it because the first thing that we're going to coming up first is the Raider-Miami game on Saturday night. And if the Miami Dolphins lose to the Raiders, then all of a sudden the Browns with a win are in the playoffs.
Yes.
So now they're in winning the division mode. Now they don't need the Steelers to beat Indianapolis. So things change completely if the Raiders beat Miami.
Well, now hang on a second. They still need the Steelers to lose to Indianapolis to have any hope of a divisional title.
Right, but the point is that they're in the playoffs with the win with the Jets and the Raiders beating Miami.
Yes, they would be in as a wild card. Yes.
Right. But the other way around, though, is where it gets dicey. If Miami does win that game, then you're in like survival mode. Now it's like, you know what? We need the Steelers to beat Indianapolis. I mean, because you got to get in the playoffs to begin with. But that Miami loss on Saturday would really, I guess the stress level would go down considerably, okay? Because it's almost like, don't bite off too much you can't chew kind of thing. Get in the playoffs first.
This is the analogy that I'm going to use. Browns fans are going to be the game show contestant that's already won X amount of dollars.
Right.
Let's make a deal. Browns fans are right now in the, well, I've just won what's behind the little box, and I'm pretty happy with this. But then the game show host says, hey, you can trade that box for what's behind curtain number 2. Now, Browns fans could say, well, hell, the way the Steelers are playing right now, curtain number 2 is the AFC Northern Division title. Man, an AFC Northern Division title would look pretty damn good. And plus, we might even get as high as a 4 seed, especially if the Bills were upset by New England on Monday night. Yeah, we could get the 2 seed. We can get as high as the 2 seed here. I'm sure there's going to be some people that are going to look at curtain number 2 and say, oh, yeah, I want curtain number 2. Well, here's the problem. If you take that deal and curtain number 2, i.e. the Pittsburgh Steelers and the AFC North, turns into a lemon, i.e. a Steelers ass-whipping over the Browns, then you got Ungats.
Yeah, who was the guy that used to be the was it Don Pardo was the announcer of that show?
Monty Hall. Monty Hall
was the announcer guy. Who was the voice?
Oh, no. It wasn't Don Pardo. It was, it wasn't Don Pardo, because Don Pardo was all NBC all the time. But no, and I know who it's a pretty famous guy, but yeah,
right.
It's this reminds me of Let's Make a Deal.
It'd be like, all right, let's see. You chose curtain number 2. Let's see what's behind. You got 2 options. He could either say a brand new car or a 10-year-old goat.
Yeah,
I mean that's what that came down to, and the music would always reflect the prize. If it was a goat, it'd be like that. But you're right. That's a great analogy. That's what it's all about. But you know what? It is amazing though that we're talking about the playoffs. Usually, the talk usually in and around Cleveland this time of the year is about the draft. Who's going to draft next year? I mean, that's always the talk around this. We're not hearing that at all right now, which is a good thing.
It's kind of fun, and let me just remind everyone that in 2018, yours truly did go on the air after an 0-16 season was complete, and before the 2018 season started, I might add, and said that there is the potential, if they play their cards right, that the Cleveland Browns would have a breakout playoff 2020 season if they played their cards right. Who knew the Browns would actually play their cards right and get this done? Although they did it in a very unconventional way, because they fired everyone and hired a general manager and hired a head coach, and now they're finally doing this in 1 year instead of building from 2018 building forward. They did it a completely opposite way. But I did say in 2017, after the 0-16 year, as crazy as this sounds, the Cleveland Browns could be a playoff team in 2020 if they play their cards right. And right now, they are one hand away from playing their cards right.
If I give you like $100, will you say that the Raiders are going to be a Super Bowl contender next year? Will you say that? If I give you $100?
I can't say anything like that.
I know.
I would be lying.
Right. Yeah, but thanks a lot, Raider Rubber Dan.
Yeah.
But anyways, but it is exciting finally, and but like I said, it'll be. I'm sure the Browns fans will be tuned in Saturday night to see if a miracle. It wouldn't be a miracle if the Raiders could somehow, beat Miami, because that would be a big sigh then, and that would put a little things in focus, because they know now we beat the Jets, we're in, and then you move forward from there. But yeah, you got to get in first, okay?
Well, and the other team in all of this is the Baltimore Ravens. If the Baltimore Ravens happen to lose on Sunday to the New York Giants, they would fall to 9-6, and then all of a sudden the Browns, with a victory over the other team in Jersey, would dispatch of Baltimore, and they would be in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's amazing because the Ravens beat the Browns twice, but what's killing the Browns is the Ravens' horrible tie-breaking conference record. Because they'll keep bouncing back into that division and knocking the Browns out. But I don't know. The Giants, they look like they've run out of gas finally, in my opinion. It looks like the Redskins, are obviously in the driver's seat of that division. I figured out last night that the Browns, who finished 4-0 against the NFC East, if the Browns were in the division, they would already clinch the division. They'd have a 3-game lead over the Redskins. So they've already won the NFC East with a 4-0 mark.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, crazy.
But I think the Browns are the only team right now that has a 4-0 record against two separate divisions, because they went 4-0 against the AFC South. Now, there might be other teams that can do that, but right now, I think they're the only team in the NFL that has a 4-0 mark against two different divisions, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it is. I mean, 8 wins outside of your division, which is good because they only have 2 wins in their division. And again, losing to the Ravens twice hurt them in a big, big way. But they swept the Bengals, and if they can split with the Steelers, there is the very strong possibility that the Cleveland Browns win the AFC North. But the other conundrum with this is, well, if Pittsburgh beats Indianapolis and Cleveland wins, Cleveland has a playoff spot, regardless of what happens the final week of the season. So Miami, Indianapolis, and Baltimore, if one of these 3 teams happen to stub their toe on Sunday, or in Miami's case, Saturday night, and the Browns beat the Jets, the Cleveland Browns are in the postseason for the first time since 2003.
It's weird how things, just a couple weeks ago, I was looking at this and I thought, well, there's a possibility the Steelers could be the 3rd seed and they might be playing the Browns to be the 6th seed. But, it could be the opposite. The Browns could end up being the 3rd seed and the Steelers could be the 6th seed. It's amazing just in like a 3-week period. If you look back at the Steelers, they have never recovered from that time off they had during COVID with Tennessee and the Ravens, because since then they won that game, and I think it was Coach Tomlin referred to as a JV game against Baltimore. And then since then, they just haven't been the same. And I know I've been talking to Emmanuel, and we just noticed it seems like Ben Roethlisberger's legs he just doesn't have his legs anymore. Maybe it's the wear and tear or whatever, but I just saw so many throws that he had last night, like just using his upper body, no legs at all. And he's 38 years old. And but he just doesn't look as fresh as he did when the season started. And maybe it's wear and tear, who knows. But nevertheless, they got that commercial where that lady falls down and she's yelling, "I've fallen, I can't get up." That's the feeling right now that's at the Steeler fans. I believe that's what I feel about the Raiders right now. I don't know if they'll ever win another game this year, and that's a sick feeling to have. Meanwhile, there's teams like the Browns and Indianapolis and Tennessee and Buffalo. They're cruising. They're just rolling along, and that's what you want to do this time of the year.
Well, I think that the other thing that everyone needs to remember about Roethlisberger was he had a surgery that up until this year had always been catastrophe for a quarterback. The elbow surgery, a quarterback has never come back from that and been a really solid quarterback at post-elbow surgery. And Roethlisberger, for the first 11 games of the season, nothing short of a miraculous turnaround where, he had a lot of zip on his fastball. Right. Over the last 3 games, he does not have any zip on his fastball at all.
Yeah, and Bernie Kosar had a similar injury too that pretty much was the end of his career because he didn't have the zip on the ball with that elbow injury. But the Steelers are in a predicament because of what's the future with this team now with Roethlisberger. I mean, there's got to be a point. And some of these athletes just don't want to retire. I mean, his legacy's protected. But when is it time to say to Roethlisberger, man, we need to move on because, they got to start thinking about, they got a young team now, but they got to start thinking about who's going to be their future quarterback. And they probably don't have one right now. They've got to really think hard about that.
Here is what I would do if I were the Steelers. And unfortunately, because the New York Jets just lost their first pick. The guy that I would have traded for had I been the Steelers general manager, and I know a lot of people would laugh about this because Sam Darnold has not had a very good NFL career. Well, it's not because Sam Darnold isn't talented. It's because the New York Jets are a dysfunctional pile of garbage, and they've always been a dysfunctional pile of garbage. And that's their past history. There's simply put no talent around Sam Darnold. if you put Sam Darnold in a situation like a Pittsburgh or a San Francisco or a Chicago, Sam Darnold could become a very good NFL quarterback. Now, the problem with all of that is, the New York Jets no longer have the first pick in the NFL draft, and they're not going to get their hands on Lawrence unless, of course, Jacksonville decides to pull a New York Jets and get a victory in one of these two remaining games. Although they do have the Chicago Bears, and anything could possibly happen with that. But, if the Jets were the number one pick and the Steelers said, hey, we'll give you a second-round draft pick for Sam Darnold, the Jets would have jumped for joy for that.
Yeah, and you know what? If you look around the NFL, one of the teams that really needs a quarterback is Jacksonville, and I understand their general manager and their head coaches have told any Jacksonville players if they score a touchdown, they're going to get fined in the next 2 weeks. And if they fire the defensive coordinator for the Jets for blitzing, why didn't they fire the head coach for winning a game at the Rams? Because but you know what? We Emmanuel and I were talking about who's out there. And I know he's had a bad year, and I think he's ready to move on. It's become an ugly situation, but why doesn't the Steelers think about maybe acquiring Wentz from Philadelphia? Maybe he could resurrect his career in Pittsburgh.
He's another guy that I wouldn't mind. If you're a Steeler fan, I wouldn't mind getting him. He's like Ben. He's an injury guy. He's not healthy, but the thing with Carson Wentz, his confidence level has been shattered in Philadelphia. It's gone.
Yeah, and you know what? You could just point back to Nick Foles. When Nick Foles came and won that Super Bowl, how could Wentz top that? I mean, that became such a situation that it was – and you know what? That team, think about it. They won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They have really fallen apart. I mean, literally at the seams. But he's ready to move on, I think. And as you know, there's situations sometimes when a quarterback – and you brought it up with the Jets quarterback – move on to another situation – Tannehill's a good example. I mean, we never thought that he'd be a quarterback that could lead a winning team, but in a different situation, and he's playing pretty good football. He's playing within himself, and he's actually done a pretty good job with Tennessee. He's not a great quarterback, but you know what? He's found another home, and he's playing good football, and that could be the case with both the Jets quarterback and even Wentz, because sometimes you just got to move on. But the Nick Foles thing, when he won that Super Bowl playing just in those few games, he was spectacular. Nevertheless, but it really set up a no-win situation with Wentz. I mean, how can he top that? He has to win a Super Bowl, I guess.
Yeah,
that's all he could do.
This is where I sat back and said immediately after Philadelphia won the Super Bowl when Foles out-dueled Brady and threw for high 400 yards in that Super Bowl win, I said, hey, if Philadelphia is smart, they're going to get as much bang for their buck. Trade Carson Wentz right now and use all of that draft capital to continue to build this organization and trust in the fact that Foles is going to be a solid quarterback. And everyone was like, well, why the hell would you trade a franchise quarterback like Carson Wentz? Well, fast forward, and now you know why. The Eagles probably should have traded Carson Wentz when he was at his highest market value.
Yeah, look at what Indianapolis did. They, Luck decided to hang it up, and they were thinking, "Wow, what are we going to do?" And they went out and got a veteran guy, who's actually, it's not his fault they haven't been a Super Bowl contender. Phillip Rivers is playing pretty good football in Indianapolis right now. That was a veteran, a smart move. But another guy that's be interesting to see what happens is my guy is Matt Stafford. I mean, he still has a tremendous arm, and he's been with an organization that has had no defense, no running game, a weak offensive line. But I mean, there's another guy. Do teams think about, wow, I think he's got about 2 or 3 years left in him, and that a different situation for him could also be very interesting.
No, Matty Ryan in Atlanta is
right.
another guy.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I mean, if the Steelers and assuming that this losing streak continues and they burst into flames and they're in the playoffs, and we want to stress that they're in the playoffs regardless if they lose the final 5 games of the season. They're in the playoffs, but if Roethlisberger continues to trend downward, it's not out of the realm of possibility for the Steelers to get someone in there and just say, okay, Ben, thanks for the memories. We're going to go a different direction. Now, obviously, he's under contract, and I mean, I don't know if any of that's guaranteed or not, and it would look kind of low-rent district if they got rid of their franchise quarterback, arguably their greatest quarterback in the franchise history, and it would be low-rent district if they did that. But if you want to keep the train rolling, it's not out of the realm of possibility for them to do that. Now, having said that, the Steelers could have very easily said, okay, enough is enough. They wake up, they kick Indianapolis's ass, they kick the Browns' ass, and they wind up with Buffalo stubbing their toe along the way. They wind up with a 2 seed, and now they're where they should be because nobody was going to catch Kansas City anyway.
Yeah, and well, they got to roll with Roethlisberger for the rest of the season, no doubt about that. But the hardest part will be convincing Roethlisberger that they want to move on. And I'm not sure, is there a situation for Roethlisberger to go somewhere else? Would any team really try to get him at this stage of his career?
Probably not. Okay. I mean, well, who knows? I mean, Philadelphia? Yeah. I mean,
Dallas, that'd be something Dallas would do, I guess, because they do, whatever.
Jerry Jones would, he'd have it all over the place. Ben, come on down here. Gonna sign you to a multi-year contract. You'll be Dallas Cowboy the rest of your career.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden we hear it all the offseason. This team is going to be unbelievable.
Yeah.
But and then there's another quarterback, the guy in Dallas. I mean, I don't think did he ever sign his extension or re-sign?
I believe he did. Okay. I believe he did. I'm going to have to look and see.
Yeah, it is such an important position, as you know, in the NFL. And I got to tell you, you look at teams like Buffalo and even Cleveland right now, these teams that have these young – and I got to tell you, the most impressive quarterback I've seen this year, and maybe he doesn't get talked enough about, but I think he's got arguably he's big, he's tall, he's strong, and this guy, Herbert from the Chargers, is a very talented quarterback.
Yeah, he's about to break all of Baker's records.
Yes. He just looks incredibly. I look at him, and I remember that Gruden, when he was talking about quarterbacks in the draft, he mentioned him several times. He liked him a lot, but they weren't going to, get another quarterback. They had Carr, but I tell you what, he may end up being pretty good. And right now, that team isn't much right now, but he's very impressive. He's got the physical tools. He's kind of like he's a little bit like Josh Allen, but I think he's got a little more accuracy. Although Allen's had a tremendous year, but he's really doing a good job. But he's with the Chargers now, and really no one's paying attention. But what I've seen of him, he's very impressive.
No, I agree with you. And again, he's about to break, if he hasn't already, Baker's all-time record for most touchdowns in a season. He's been impressive this year. There's no two ways about that.
All right, so let's tell you what. It must be a weird year when you're talking the Buffalo and the Browns and.
I feel like I'm back in my mid-20s again because the last time these two teams were really good at the same time, I mean, you got to go back to 88. So I was 24. 88 was the first year that Buffalo started getting the pieces together. And Cleveland, that was the one year that Cleveland didn't win the division. They played in the wild card game against Houston and wound up losing to the Oilers. And then in 89, both teams won their division. The Browns hosted the Bills.
I remember that
in
game.
The AFC divisional playoff game.
Yeah.
And they were kicking Buffalo's ass at halftime. And Marv Levy said, "Okay, we're gonna do a hurry-up offense." And Buffalo was going up and down the field on Cleveland the entire second half, and frantically getting back into the ballgame. And poor Ronnie Harmon dropped a pass in the end zone, in the back of the end zone at the old stadium. And the play after, Kelly thought he had a open Andre Reed, and Clay Matthews was right there to pick the pass off on like the 1 or 2 yard line. And after they lost that game, Marv Levy said it might have been the best thing to happen to Buffalo because they found what turned out to be the signature offense for the Bills in the early 90s, the K-gun hurry-up offense that just tore everyone apart in the AFC for the next 4 years, 90 through 93.
Yeah, was that the Sugar Huddle?
No, they flat out went to the line of scrimmage, and Kelly started calling all the plays from the line of scrimmage, and he would call the plays based on the defense, and the defense couldn't substitute anybody. That was the beautiful part of this back then. So imagine if you wanted to have 5 defensive backs. Okay, well, we got a Hall of Fame running back to hand the ball off to in Thurman Thomas. You want to go basic defense? Okay, I got a guy that can blow the top off your basic defense on one side in James Lofton. I got the ultimate possession receiver in Andre Reed on the other side. I got a big guy in Pete Metzelaars at tight end. And, oh, by the way, I got a great offensive line that's going to keep me from being destroyed, me being Jim Kelly. And, yeah, I mean, offensively, they weren't stopped very often.
Well, you don't have to tell me that because I think the final score of the AFC Championship game was 50-3.
51.
And the weather was miserable.
Yes.
And I remember every time I went out and the weather was cold and went outside, I kept seeing a Buffalo Bill score another touchdown.
Yeah, it was ugly. Yeah.
It was ugly, and it stained me for many, many years. And I couldn't look at a Buffalo nickel for 10 years after that game. But nevertheless, if you think that you're worried about all the bizarro things with the Browns and the Bills being good, just turn on the Lions and it'll get back to normal for you.
There you go.
Stink.
Yeah,
right.
Well, it is
That's
what
all
it
I have
is.
today, Ron. But
right.
I will be watching all these games, even though my teams are done pretty much. But I'd like to see the Raiders upset the Dolphins. That would be nice.
Well, I mean, it would be nice for Raider Nation. I mean, it would be very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. But anyways, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
All righty, sir.
And by the way, tonight's the opening night of the NBA. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and the Cavaliers are in action tomorrow night. I've looked at the previews, and everyone is like, yeah, the Cavaliers, 29 out of 30 NBA teams. I'm like, okay. There's a lot of people that are that don't quite believe in this young group. I have something to say about that in a little bit.
Yeah, well, the TV executives they put Golden State at Brooklyn so they can get Durant going against his former team. That's the opening game tonight, and that's pretty smart. But I think the Cavs will be an interesting team to watch because obviously you don't talk about them much, but they got a lot of players that no one talks about, so that's good for them.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of talent in the backcourt, potential talent, and there's an awful lot of legitimate talent in the front court. Mm-hmm. And depending on how good the backcourt is, legitimately good, is going to determine just how good this Cavaliers team is. Because there is a chance the Cavaliers could come out of nowhere and be a playoff team this year.
Yeah, because the leagues from below 4 and 5 after that, there's a lot of parity. When you get past the top 3 or 4 in both these conferences, there's a lot of parity. And the West is still loaded pretty well. They got some great teams out there. Obviously, the Lakers are out there. But I think that'll be interesting. It's also going to be interesting to see where the Warriors are at right now because without Klay Thompson, well, they've done a lot to kind of build this team. They got a lot of depth now. They added a lot of players. And I'm very curious to see the 7'1" James Wiseman because he's going to be playing tonight. And there's a lot of good reports on him. He's only played 3 games in college, but he's a monster in terms of height and the way he can run the court. So that'll be fun to watch. But, yeah, I'm glad to see the NBA back. It's something else to watch in sports. So.
Well, a lot's going to be asked from him because Draymond Green is going to be out for the first few games. So there's going to be a lot on Wiseman's plate starting tonight.
Draymond Green's mouth's going to be at the game, so that's good.
Well, there you go.
All right. Have a good time and go Bills and go Browns and go Raiders.
There you go. Thank you, sir.
Buddy.
All right. 330-886-0813, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business. By the way, coming up at the top of the hour, we will hear from Doug Chapin, the Tribune Chronicle and Vindicator sports editor. Rob Schmidt's going to be calling in at 2 o'clock, mainly because we're not here on Thursday. I mean, Thursday's Christmas Eve. We're not doing a show on Christmas Eve. Not doing a show on Christmas Day either, so it's kind of a shortened week here at the HQ Ranch, headquarter ranch, if you will. So we're only doing the show to Wednesday. So tomorrow, the cast of characters, normal cast of characters, will have Brian Driscoll from IrishBreakdown.com, and we'll talk about the fact that Notre Dame is going to be playing Alabama in the national semifinal game after drizzling down their leg again in the ACC title game with the Clemson Tigers, who, by the way, get the Ohio State Buckeyes. And we made mention yesterday, Dabo Swinney, the world's biggest jackass, decided to put the Ohio State Buckeyes as number 11 on his coaches poll ballot. Has them at 11th because they only played 6 games. Okay. So we'll hear from Brian Driscoll at 12:20 tomorrow, and then let's see, at 1 o'clock we're going to bring in Dre Smith. We'll talk some YSU women's basketball at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and then hopefully we'll have Joe Simon from the Vindicator and the Tribune Chronicle calling in at 2 o'clock, and Anthony will be here, and we'll certainly be talking an awful lot about what went down in high school basketball tonight, which tomorrow would be last night. Man, that's weird. Anyway, on the network tonight, plenty of high school basketball games. As I mentioned, I will be at the Crestview game against East Liverpool. That is a 7 o'clock start, or allegedly a 7 o'clock start. And I say allegedly because, again, it's all at the mercy of the JV game. JV starts at 5:30. All right, here we go with our list of stuff that's going on right now as we speak. A wrestling, what is this? A triangular meet. Edison, Steubenville, and Southern are all getting together for a wrestling meet that started about 50 minutes ago. 4:30 swim meets. Boardman will be hosting Massillon Jackson. 5 o'clock. Varsity basketball game. I believe this game is at Salem, if I'm not mistaken. The holiday tournament going on at Salem. I believe this game is at Salem High School, and it's varsity only. It's a 5 o'clock start. Ursuline is playing Poland. All right, 6:45. The Wildcats will be hosting St. Thomas Aquinas. St. Thomas Aquinas, as of last year, they were D4. I don't know what their classification is this year. They're always bordering between D4 or D3, but it's a solid basketball program. And again, a solid, very solid non-conference affair for the Wildcats as they host St. Thomas Aquinas out of Louisville, which is just outside of Canton. Matter of fact, you can't miss St. Thomas Aquinas High School if you're traveling to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and you're on 62. You cannot miss St. Thomas Aquinas High School. Going toward Canton, it's on your right-hand side. Austintown Fitch will be hosting the Dukes from Marlington. That is a 7 o'clock start, which means the JV game starts at 5:30. Canfield will be hosting the Dover Tornadoes tonight. Crestview hosting East Liverpool. Lowellville will be hosting Heartland Christian. South Range is hosting Springfield. Western Reserve is hosting Camel. And Salem is hosting Columbiana. Now, all of the games that I just mentioned, Fitch, Marlington, Canfield, Dover, Crestview, East Liverpool, Lowellville, Heartland Christian, South Range, Springfield, Western Reserve, Camel, all of those games have a 7 o'clock varsity start, which means that the JV game starts at 5:30. The Salem-Columbiana game has a varsity start at 7:30, which means the JV game starts at 6 o'clock instead of 5:30. They always go an hour and a half in between, or I should say an hour and a half from the start of the JV game to theoretically the start of the varsity game. But the JV game starts at 6 o'clock in Salem, between Salem and Columbiana. And again, kudos to Columbiana for scheduling a game in Salem because, well, they're Division III, and they will be going, assuming they make it to the districts, they would be going to a district semifinal game, and the districts are in Salem. So that's a good move. Varsity only. All right, sir. Well, there goes my JV game theory. So it is varsity only. Salem and Columbiana is varsity only. All right. 7:30 start. But again, kudos to Columbiana for doing that because, again, you always want to schedule a game on the floor or the floor of a potential tournament game. You always want your kids to have at least that experience to be on that floor just in case your team gets to the district semifinals. Now, this year, that could be a little dicey because, after all, we saw in the fall, volleyball and soccer both went to the supersized regionals where you smash two districts together. So no guarantee, assuming that basketball follows suit and they smash the two districts together. I would think it would be Salem and Warren. The two districts would be smashed together. And then there's no guarantee that you're playing a potential district semifinal game in Salem. Although, again, in theory, it's a fantastic move. It would be kind of along the same line of a Division IV team that plays their D4 tournament or district tournament in Struthers. It would be the equivalent of one of the D4 teams who happens to have minimal district semifinal aspirations. Well, they'd want to call the Struthers Wildcats. And we'll call the Wildcats. We'll schedule a game with them. I don't necessarily know if I'd want to do that this year, given the fact the Wildcats are such a great team and have aspirations of their own to be pretty deep in the tournament in Division II, and that kind of would be a really, really tough game for a D4 team, any D4 team, to play a ridiculously talented D2 team. But nonetheless, that would be the equivalent of what Salem is doing right now. And I always applaud the teams, D4 and D3 teams. If you know that your tournament game is going to be played in, let's say, Salem, and you're a D3 team, I'm going to schedule Salem. I want to play a home game in Salem because, well, I believe our team is going to be in the district semifinals, so I want to be able to have our kids play a game on that floor before we go to the district semifinals and play on that floor. You always want to have that opportunity to know your basketball floor. That's why Western Reserve and McDonald always, at least in the last few years, Western Reserve had scheduled Struthers. Play a game with the Wildcats at the field house? Absolutely. Because we believe we're going to be good enough to go to the district semifinals, so might as well get our feet wet and see just how what we're looking forward to with the field house. And you have that advantage. Because if no other team in the tournament played Struthers in the field house in the regular season, well, you've already played one game there. So you might have a little bit of an edge going into the district semifinals. Same thing with Salem. If nobody else in the D3 tournaments scheduled Salem, all right, well, then your team, assuming you get into the district semifinals in Salem, your team just got a pretty decent advantage because your team played on that floor. It's always a wise thing to do. Anyway, that's basketball, and that's our games on the network tonight. I'm looking forward to the Crestview East Liverpool game. This should be an interesting test for the Rebels. All right, we're going to take a timeout. On the other side, we will hear from Doug Chapin, the esteemed sports editor of the Tribune Chronicle and the Vindicator. The Trumbull County Board of Health, their warning and their red flag has been lowered, and everyone can now start resuming high school sports activities. What does that mean for some of the Trumbull County schools, and how fast can some of these Trumbull County schools get back into it? We'll talk with Doug Chapin about that and more. That's coming up after this timeout. It's a Tuesday edition of Running Point, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Back in a bit.
21 News.
Let's get right to our top story tonight.
More experienced reporters
A new Wilmington restaurant.
GM Lordstown.
telling more local stories
We'll look at
Baby
efforts
boy
to
is
curb
recovering from a broken.
around our
Good
valley.
Community in Niles
afternoon. We are here in Youngstown, right up.
Because you expect
It's important for everyone.
No place like home.
more local news.
In Mercer County Court.
21 News is our valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
Attention football fans, order Coca's Pizza tailgate package for only $54.99. You'll receive 24 slices of our delicious cheese pizza, 20 jumbo wings, and 2 of our famous foot-long pepperoni rolls. Coca's Pizza, we serve it hot.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Your Armstrong services are more important than ever. There are more and more connected devices in the home these days. To get the most out of your experience, you need a network that is always getting better. You deserve superior performance, and that's what Armstrong offers every day. Whether you're working from home, enjoying your favorite content together, or simply catching up while apart, count on Armstrong to keep you connected to what matters most.
I went to Greenwood Chevrolet because
I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years. I think whenever we go there, whatever car we're looking for, they have tremendous inventory.
If you're looking for people who care about you, Greenwood is the place to go.
You know, it's like family there. The girls know me in service. It's Miss Kim in the Tahoe.
I'm really happy that I went
to Greenwood Chevrolet.
Because they really went
the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
For heating, cooling, and indoor air quality, the Mahoning Valley trusts MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning, offering worry-free repair, service, and installation. Call MP Vivo today for a free estimate.
MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. We're your energy-efficient experts.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Points on ysnlive.com, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Okay, we're going to move Doug Chapin to tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock, and, well, it's the holiday season. I mean, Doug is out Christmas shopping, and, far be it from me to interrupt someone who's doing Christmas shopping. So we're going to move Doug to tomorrow. And that gives us more of an opportunity to take some phone calls on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline, 330-886-0813. That's 330-886-0813. Did not mention this, but yesterday, a bit of a surprise out of Baton Rouge. Bo Pelini is gone after just 1 year as the defensive coordinator at Louisiana State University. Now, I have a number of friends that are in Baton Rouge through my baseball travels. More than a handful have wound up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I was on the phone with one of my dear friends last night. Bo Pelini was railroaded. I mean to tell you, this dude was absolutely railroaded, a victim of low-rent district garbage from LSU. According to my friend, on a day-in, day-out basis, Bo was getting screamed at by everybody. I mean, all counts. The media, Orgeron, everybody. I mean, everybody. I mean, he was the whipping boy in Baton Rouge. Everyone just was, oh, I can't believe it. And just everything was all on Bo. Now, look, there's no two ways about it. LSU's defense was horrible this year. Was. Of course, any defense would be horrible, given the fact that, well, let's see. At least half of the starters from last year's team graduated. A number of them are in the NFL right now. Thank you very much. Most of the other half sat out because of COVID. And Bo was playing with true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and sophomores. And I believe of the 11 guys on the championship team, one, maybe two, I'm thinking one starter remained. He had a bunch of new people. Again, half of the starters from last year's team, 5 or 6 of the starters, they graduated. They went to the NFL. So now you're down to 5. Well, let's see, 3 or 4 of them, they're skipping this season because of COVID. So you're down to like 1, maybe 2 starters left over. Well, you're not going to be able to do very much from this. He's playing a lot of freshmen and redshirt freshmen. And, oh, by the way, they didn't have a preseason. They had none of this stuff. And here's a little news flash. LSU wasn't the only Southeastern Conference program that sucked on defense. The SEC this year turned into the Big 12 overnight. There were games that were in the 40s. Look at the SEC title game. You had a track meet going back and forth between Alabama and Florida. Neither team defensively played a great game. Now, unfortunately, LSU didn't play a great game defensively at any point in time. Unfortunately for Bo, that falls on him. And LSU and Bo Pelini, they just said, okay, this ain't working, so we're going to pay you off, and that'll be the end of that. Now, according to the Baton Rouge Advocate, Pelini's getting 5.2 of his, a little over $6.5 million. He's going to get all at once, apparently. But he got railroaded. I mean, he was in a no-win situation. With COVID and the fact that they didn't have a spring ball, didn't have a spring season, didn't have any time whatsoever to go out in practice and work on this particular defense, and you throw in the fact that the players that were supposed to return, all but 1 or 2 of them sat out because of COVID. Now you're dealing with playing true or redshirt freshmen. It had no experience whatsoever, and you saw the result of this. And unfortunately, like I said, LSU wasn't the only team in the SEC that was god-awful defensively. Practically every team in the SEC was god-awful. And it got to the point where the SEC turned into the Big 12 overnight with all those scores in the 40s. And Bo Pelini, unfortunately, and again, this is low-rent district attitude of LSU, because they won a national title. Now everyone is all of a sudden entitled, and now they think, well, because we won a national title, hey, we can win a national title anytime we want to, and this happens. I'm not the biggest Bo Pelini fan in the world, but I can tell you when someone's been railroaded. This dude was set up to fail. With everything that went on, this is a guy that deserved another year. He absolutely, positively deserved another year. But as I told my friend last night, hey, if somebody wants to yell at me 24/7 for an entire football season and then give me, 5.2, 5.4, I can't remember what the number was. I'm going to look it up again. The Baton Rouge Advocate saying, 5.2. So if I'm getting yelled at 24/7 the entire football season, whether it be Ed Orgeron, who sounds an awful lot like Boomhauer from King of the Hill, the boosters, the media, the fans, yada, yada, yada. And at the end of the year, I'm getting $5.2 million for essentially wearing it all year long. Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it. But make no mistake about it. This shouldn't have happened like this. He should have been given another year. Under the circumstances, the fact that COVID was and still is rampant, and it did not allow any college to truly prepare. And I mentioned this, when was it? I think it was before the NFL season even started, that the newer coaches were going to be up against it. They were going to have an extreme disadvantage because, well, you're not going to have a lot of time to put your system in, which going to the NFL, Stefanski has to be the coach of the year, as far as I'm concerned, because, again, first-year coach, he should have been up against the wall and up against it because, you had hardly any time to put your system in, both offensively and defensively. He's killing it. Where the Browns are 10-4 and could very easily still win this division, he should be the coach of the year, no questions asked. But going back to Bo, unfortunately, Bo's the fall guy for what turns out to be an awful year at Louisiana State University, and what could have gone wrong went wrong. But I'm here to tell you, even though I may not be his biggest fan, this is not all of Bo's fault. It just isn't. And the fact that he didn't get a second year is just, man, it's a bad look for LSU. It really is. That's a really bad look. That screams entitlement. Now they just pulled a Dabo Sweeney, as far as I'm concerned. I really thought Orgeron was better than that. And this is just following a disturbing path, which, have you ever noticed, whether it be a player, whether it be a coach, all of a sudden things get a little bit better, and then the demeanor changes. We mentioned this about Dabo Sweeney. Dabo Sweeney, prior to Clemson getting on this unbelievable run and winning a couple of national championships and whatnot, Dabo Sweeney, prior to all of this greatness, he's a pretty fun-loving guy. Man, he's a fun-loving guy. No problems here. I mean, what was the phrase he used when Clemson beat Notre Dame in the driving rainstorm? BYOG, bring your own guts. Man, I loved it. That's the kind of coach that, okay, he gets it. And now, a couple of national championships, a little taste of success, and now he's the biggest D-bag in the history of college football. And after yesterday's announcement, pinning everything on Bo Pelini, it would look like Boomhauer, a.k.a. Mr. Borgeron, however the hell he pronounces his name, Borgeron, he's running a close second. And again, I'm not the biggest Bo Pelini fan in the world, but my God, he deserved a second chance, given all the circumstances. That's just crazy. All right, 330-886-0813, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline, open for business. Again, on the network, the wrestling triangular match, Edison is wrestling against Steubenville and Southern. That is going on as we speak. It started at 12 noon. Boardman will be hosting Massillon Jackson in a swimming meet. That is scheduled to start at 4:30 on the network. I mean, we're having a great time doing swimming. Having a great time doing swimming on the network. Who would have thought that this would have been so much fun to do? I got a buddy of mine used to broadcast games, AA ball with Carolina. And he's now the play-by-play guy for the Durham Bulls. The AAA Durham Bulls, not the Carolina League. Kevin Costner, Durham Bulls. Durham's now a AAA team, and Patrick Keenis is his name. And he over the last, I want to say 2 Olympic Games, has been blessed to work for Westwood One as the swimming announcer in the summer games. And the speed skate racer announcer in the winter games. So he has he's been able to go to, I want to say, the last 2 Winter Olympics and the last Summer Olympic game, and this upcoming Summer Olympic game in Tokyo that should have been this past summer, but COVID ruined everything. He does the swimming for Westwood One. Now, Westwood One is audio only, so you can imagine how much more difficult that is when you don't have the video in front of you. Now, if you have the video in front of you, well, now everyone and their brother knows what's going on. I mean, all you have to do is just make sure that everyone is aware who's in lane number 4 and basically drowning everybody. That's, you just make sure you know who's in what lane, and then you go from there. It's pretty easy. Not incredibly easy, but it's your assignment is a lot different when you have the video in front of you. Now, if you have just audio, okay, now you got to paint the picture, and now that kind of that's an interesting concept. But Patrick's been doing that. I think this will be his second Summer Olympics this summer. Knock on wood, hoping and praying that we don't have COVID continuing to hang around. Tokyo will host the Summer Olympics. Anyway, Boardman is hosting Massillon Jackson in swimming today at 4:30 on the network. Boys basketball, varsity only. I believe this game is in Salem as part of the holiday tournament in Salem. Ursuline is going to be hosting Poland. And my phone just died. Oh, that's lovely. Can't believe that just happened. All right, South Range is going to be hosting Springfield. Let's see, East Liverpool is going to be coming up to Crestview, and they will be playing the Rebels at Rebel Gym. Let's see, who are the other 7 o'clock games? South Range is hosting Springfield. Salem is hosting Columbiana in the other holiday game, and that is a varsity-only game. At 7:30 up in Salem. And there's a couple of other games, but like I said, my phone just died. How the hell did that happen? I thought I charged it this morning. It sucks getting old, kids. 330-886-0813, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline, open for business. Rob Schmitz will be calling in the program at 2 o'clock. Let's get to the phone lines real quick. Thanks for waiting. You're on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What's going on?
How you doing, my brother?
I'm good, man. How about yourself?
Okay. Before we get to talking about the Steelers, and we might need the couch, the Cavaliers, they're going to surprise a lot of people. That Drummond's a ball player.
Yeah.
You watch him.
This is going to be an interesting season for the Cavs. Now, I'm not promising that the Cavaliers are going to be this world beater team, because they're not. But I do think the Cavaliers have a slight chance at surprising everyone and being a playoff team. Now, The Athletic came out with their ratings, and they have the Cavaliers second to the bottom, but they had the caveat that Darius Garland, if he performs to capabilities up to his potential, there is the possibility that the Cavaliers could become a playoff contending team. I would also add to this, I'm not necessarily convinced that Darius Garland and Colin Sexton should be on the floor at the same time. The two guys that I believe the Cavaliers should have on the floor at the same time for as often as they can are the last 2 first-round draft picks, one in which we didn't see at all last year, and that's Dylan Windler out of Belmont. Dylan Windler can be a lockdown defensive 2 guy, or put him at the 3 and have Isaac Okoro as the lockdown 2 guy. Either way, these 2 guys are not only very athletic, they're quite good defensively. I think Okoro's better. And both of them can create their own shot off the dribble. If you put these 2 guys on the floor at the same time, and you add a Colin Sexton, and you continue by putting Love at the 4 and Drummond at the 5, and you have Larry Nance Jr. coming off the bench along with Porter Jr. and Garland and Jetty, this isn't a bad basketball team. I mean, it's not a top 6 basketball team in the conference. But if everything falls into place, this could be a back of the top 8 playoff caliber basketball team. Now, a lot has to go right, but they have a good front court, and they have a potentially dynamite backcourt. And if the backcourt lives up to their potential, I'm going to tell you right now, Emmanuel, this team could be a playoff team if that backcourt lives up to its potential.
All I'm saying is this. it could be said that Drummond is the best defensive center in the Eastern Conference. He's a double-double, and if Kevin Love can be a double-double, that's a pretty good doggone start.
No, I agree with that.
I'm liking finally, I can finally talk about them. I'm liking what the 76ers are doing, but we can talk basketball down the road. But what I'm saying is this. Let's talk about some facts here. Now, you look at the AFC North. You look at their quarterbacks. You got Baker, you got Lamar, and I still think the young man that hurt his leg in Cincinnati, I still think Barrow. Was it Barrow?
No, Burrow. Burrow.
Burrow, yeah. Tomato. But what I'm saying is, I think he's pretty good, right? And then you look at the other playoff teams. You know, the Kansas City quarterback. You know, the Buffalo's quarterback, and I would say this: all those have one thing in common. They don't necessarily have a running quarterback, but they have a mobile quarterback. And let's be honest here. We're going to ride Big Ben either to horsing the Lombardi or going down in flames this year. But the bottom line is this. I hate to say it, but the bottom line is this. The things that made Big Ben great, he can't do anymore. If I'm an offensive coordinator, I don't want a quarterback like Ben because you can't use half your playbook. Listen, you can't run a RPO like everybody else. Josh Allen can run it, and even Aaron Rodgers can run it. But you're not going to see Ben running the RPO. So what do I do as an offensive coordinator? That's cutting down my jet sweep. I can't roll out. So I'm playing with half a playbook. Now the defense is looking like, this guy can't move. You know, he has a good arm, but he can't move. So we're just going to rush three up the middle because it's not like he's going to roll out and run away from you, and pick up a first down. This guy can't even do a quarterback sneak. So the bottom line is, first of all, this man is not worth $34 million a year. At one time he was. He will be probably the greatest quarterback in the history of Pittsburgh Steelers. But the bottom line is, I thought I seen Willie Mays last night. And this has been going on for 3 doggone weeks, 4 weeks. The man, he just doesn't have it like he used to. And I don't want to hear he's 38, 39. I'm looking at Tom Brady. I'm looking at Phillip Rivers. Right. I'm looking at these guys. These guys are balling.
Yeah, but
I'm looking at Matt Ryan.
Okay, but here's the reality with the comparisons that you just mentioned. None of those quarterbacks, the aging quarterbacks that you just mentioned, had the elbow surgery that ends NFL careers like Ben did. And the fact that Ben was able to do what he has done the first 11 games of the season is probably more miraculous than anything not named Alex Smith. And if Alex Smith had not come back from the damn near death experience, and if Alex Smith had retired, there is no question in my mind who not only the comeback player of the year is, you can argue the comeback player of the decade, the comeback player of the 21st century, and one can make a somewhat argument the comeback player of all time, because the surgery that Ben Roethlisberger had was a death knell. And up until this year, it was a death knell for quarterbacks. Bernie Kosar had this surgery. Bernie Kosar was released 1.5 years after he got this surgery. No, I want to say 2.5 years after. Bernie Kosar got...
You're talking about that Buffalo game, and I remember watching a video with Bernie walking off the field with was it Kelly? They went to school together in Miami.
Yeah, well, Bernie got that surgery in 88. He was released, I want to say, in 90, 92, 93, somewhere around there. The difference between what Bernie had to deal with and what Ben had to deal with, Bernie had that surgery at 25 or close to his 25th or 26th birthday. He had 12 years on Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger gets this surgery at 38 years of age. His career should have been over. How Ben Roethlisberger was able to perform this year up until the last 3 weeks has been nothing short of miraculous. Now, I agree. Over the last 3 weeks, his fastball is is not quite where it should be. But
I'm not talking about his arm. I'm talking about his mobility. You know,
Well, he's never been mobile.
When was he ever mobile?
Yeah, Ben's never been mobile.
Okay, listen. Ben would knock somebody off of him. He roll out to the side and throw the ball 60 yards. Ben right now he can't move. He's not mobile. And you know, it reminds me of something. You know, you guys might not be old enough to remember this, and I can't believe I'm saying this. It reminds me of when Johnny Unitas had finally lost it, and he would still drop back and stay in that pocket when other quarterbacks like Scrambling Fran and Roger the Dodger and Douglas and those guys were moving. The quarterbacks were moving.
I remember.
You can't have quarterbacks. The teams that are winning now have mobile quarterbacks. That is not by coincidence. Everybody's running the RPO. We can't do that. You understand that, right?
Here's the thing: it's why are we leaning on the quarterbacks for the RPO? I mean, if you watched any of that game,
everybody's doing it.
That doesn't mean anything. That means nothing. It means nothing.
Yeah, okay. Let me let you in on a secret, right? There's one thing about the NFL that you should never, ever, one more time, ever forget. It is a copycat league.
I understand that.
Go ahead.
I understand that. So when you're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're talking about Ben Roethlisberger, you're talking about the RPO. Tell me about the other half of that RPO and what scares any team right now in the backfield other than number 7.
I don't think number 7 scares him. If I'm a defensive coordinator, number 7 doesn't scare me because he's too limited. I know one thing.
No, you're missing the point. You're missing the point.
If I rush the middle, right? I'm gonna rush the middle, and if they run the ball, we're gonna stop the run on the way getting to the quarterback. It's not like Ben's gonna roll out like a Mayfield or somebody like that. It's not like he can't extend. He used to extend plays.
Okay,
you remember that?
Okay, hang on a second, and I want to pile on what DJ is saying because let me just throw this out. If Nick Chubb were playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger would be your problem. But because Pittsburgh doesn't have a running threat, let alone a running game, they don't even have a threat. Although Benny Snell didn't play bad last night, but it was against the freaking Bengals.
Whoa. Let's stop right there. Let's stop that train. How many 2nd and 1s, 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s did we see last night that Benny Snell, who is
that's
one of
on
the
your
best...
That's on your offensive line too.
Well,
they didn't have a lot of traction.
When he kicks it, and we got 3 Pro Bowlers on our offensive line.
Yeah, but they didn't do a good job last night. Did you see one?
I understand they didn't do a good job, Ron, but that just tells me everything I need to know about the Pro Bowl selection is based on your name and not your execution.
Well, Jordan Poyer should have been a Pro Bowl selection, free safety of Buffalo, but I digress.
Enough
you're
with Buffalo.
100%.
Nobody cares. We're talking about the Steelers.
Okay, guys. You remember when Ben? Now listen, I'm talking about the Ben now. But you remember back when Ben used to like extend plays.
Okay.
You know,
Emmanuel, how old are you? How old are you?
I'm too old, but go ahead.
All right. So when you were 25, how easy was it to go upstairs and hills and all that stuff? When you were 38, and I sit here at 35, it's a little bit tougher. I had a snowball fight with my little girls the other day, and I was sore for 2 days. Okay, so when you're a 30,
I had one too.
When you're a 30,
I got teenagers.
When you're a 38, 39-year-old quarterback in the NFL, and you've got grown men who can bench press Cadillacs, you're not going to do the things you used to do. You're coming off surgery. And I'm not saying that he needs to retire. I'm not. At one point last night, I looked at it, I said, okay, because he brought it up to the press. He said, if I can't be better, I need to hang it up. And
if you base your retirement, you already retired. Now go ahead.
No, see, because he does it every year.
I'm telling you.
There's a difference.
He's already retired.
Roethlisberger is a drama queen. He's my favorite quarterback of all time. The favorite. He's my quarterback. He's my guy. And I'll defend him till the end. But you can't put everything on Roethlisberger last night. On a 3rd and 1, you got to have Benny Snell has got to be able to figure out a way to wiggle between the lines and get in there.
Benny Snell's supposed to be the short down running back inside the red zone, and for the last 2 years he hasn't came through. That was a mistake. But what I'm trying to tell you is this: Pittsburgh says next man up. I don't care what you did last week, 2 weeks, whatever. We got Ben to the end of the year, but I don't see Ben playing 2 years with us. Maybe next year be his last year, maybe.
That's last year in his contract.
Let me ask you a question. You think he's worth $34 million?
I do. And if there's any
Right
Browns,
now?
yeah, because if there's any Browns fans out there, what they'll tell you is for 21 years they searched for a quarterback, and they would give anything for Ben Roethlisberger for the last 17.
They can have the Ben Roethlisberger now. You can't tell me, like you said, the quarterback he is now is not the quarterback he was 5, 6, 7 years ago. So why should we? We need to get.
Where were you the first 11 weeks when they were 11-0?
I was complaining. I was one of those people talking about we couldn't run. Ron, you remember that?
I'll vouch for that. He was.
We was 11-0, and I'm on the couch.
I don't understand. I don't understand. And I heard you say Phillip Rivers. What has he done? Didn't look like he was on that list last night.
The first 3 weeks, yeah, but I would pay for that race. I want to see Phillip Rivers, Big Ben, and Ron race a 40. I want to see that. That's all.
Don't throw me into that.
Well, you can see Ron. You can see Ron go on a 40 anytime you want to YSN.
Don't throw me into that. Even if they speed the film up, I'm still 40 yards behind everyone.
And so it could be said. It could be said by the way they played this year. It could be said that Ben is the fourth best quarterback in our division.
I don't think. No. He's not, because one of the quarterbacks isn't even playing right now.
But before he got hurt, they was talking about him Rookie of the Year.
I agree with you, and I'm on that train. But
think about
here's the thing.
So we've only had the best quarterback in our division. That's not good.
So here's the thing: is we've got people that Baker Mayfield is turning it on, right? It's what, week 16 or week?
Yeah, it'll be week 16.
Week
this
16.
Week. Yeah.
So it's taken 3 years for Baker Mayfield to turn it on, and he's learning the NFL. Roethlisberger was in a Super Bowl. No, I take that back. AFC Championship his first year. He's only had one losing season. You're telling me that you would throw this guy out like Old Yeller behind the woodshed, behind Heinz Field, and say, you know what, you're done. Not even let's see what you got left.
And listen. It's and Ronnie taught me that when Ron when I first heard you on the radio, right? You said something, and it never really dawned on me till I heard you say it and you explained it to me, right? And you said, always remember, Emmanuel, this is a business.
It is
because
business.
you was part of it. So
it is
if
business.
that dog ain't going to hunt, yes, I will.
So let me ask you this: you've got one quarterback in the AFC North that's sitting with a playoff spot. The other two are not, and yet you're going to put him out to the woodshed and say that's it.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Let's say it wasn't Big Ben, right? And this is a possibility. If you lose 5 straight games, you gonna keep the quarterback?
I witnessed 8-8 last year. listen. I witnessed 8-8 last year. I know what it's like to see without Roethlisberger. If we don't have Ben Roethlisberger,
even when we was 8-8, even when we was 8-8, right? We still didn't lose 5 in a row.
No, we didn't.
Have you looked at the way we've been playing? And some of them games we won, we really shouldn't have won.
Listen, you talk about being one-dimensional. Like, what I'm trying to get at is the RPO is not sustainable over 17, 18 years.
But listen to what I'm saying. Just because you got a stick don't mean you got to use it. That part of the playbook, as a defensive coordinator, I don't even have to scheme against that.
But
I just rush those 3 and drop 8 back.
But what I'm
saying
is,
it's not like being going to scramble.
The game that Lamar Jackson plays, the game that Patrick Mahomes. Baker's different than Lamar Jackson. They roll Baker out
because
they have to, because he can't see over the line.
But we don't have that option. I mean, there's another thing too, right? If Ben, big as he is, he can't move in the pocket. He's getting too many passes deflected. I'm telling you. You never used to see that about Ben.
No, Ben's always had passes deflected.
He underthrew Claypool, and I don't understand. I don't care who you are, right? The gunslingers do it. Why every time you throw the ball, it's either double or triple coverage? Now, and he'll put it right there on the money, but ain't somebody else open?
The other guys get paid too. You realize that the other guys get paid too. And this is what I've been trying to tell Browns fans for the last 10 weeks is be careful what you wish for, because when you become the team that everybody gets up for, it becomes difficult. It doesn't matter who's in the other locker room.
Ron will tell you this because when he first met me, I told him this, and I think he understands this now, right? And I'm from the opinion it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. And I really don't like the way Pittsburgh is playing right now.
I mean, do they look like a championship team? No.
If you play your game, if you play it right, and you give it your best shot, I don't care what the score is, you don't lose.
I will say this.
That's the Raider in me, the Warren West Reserve Raider in me. As long as we show up and do the best we can and do what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to do it. I heard Canfield's coach tell that team that once before they went out there on the field in the playoff game. He said, "We are Canfield. Go do what we do." And they went out there and did it. I'm like, whoa.
My thing is this: is the Steelers, as long as I've been a Steeler fan, that's been a long time. They get up for the big games, the ones that they're playing teams. Like if they were playing the Chiefs, no, obviously the Bills was a tough game. I don't think they expected what they got against Buffalo, but they get up for the big games.
Let me ask you a question. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Okay, do you've been watching the Steelers for a while? Have you actually ever seen or when was the last time you seen a Pittsburgh Steelers team play the way they've been playing over the last 8 weeks?
Last year. Last year it was awful. I remember there was, Kent Graham was our quarterback at one time.
I think last year, right? I think Tomlin should have been coach of the year last year. The effort was there, right? And they just didn't have the horses. But the effort was there. They never gave up. They tried. I don't see that this year.
I mean, you see it. It's just you talk about next man up. I mean, how far do you have to go down the depth chart? I mean, you can do next man up, but when you're playing a high school senior, basically, from JUCO, how good is he going to be against a world class athlete? And I don't care if they're the Bengals or not.
I heard somebody say something 45 seconds ago. Well, they all get paid and they're all professionals. So what's your point?
Well, you're right. And whoever said that is right, but listen, we are beyond watered down, man. We are like crick water, right? With our linebacking core, with our running backs. Like, I'm a Benny Snell fan. I want nothing but the best for Benny Snell. But when you got soft shell crab in front of you that you can't make it through 2 games in James Conner, and we're without Vince Williams, who is one of our main guys in the linebacking. Then you got Devin Bush. Listen, I'm not making excuses. Next man up. I'm a huge believer in that. But at the same time, you have to understand, not everybody is an NFL starter. Not everybody. And again, the other guys get paid too. So when they're making our guys look bad, and it's a third-string linebacker and a safety who has changed over to be linebacker, like, I'm sure there's a lot of Steeler fans that aren't like necessarily up in it that saw 27 at the linebacker spot last night and said, "Who the hell is that?"
Well, I seen that coming. But see, with if you listen to Urban Myers on Saturday, he's a smart man. Everybody's playing that 3-3. And that's what it is. And basically, it goes back like when Ricky Foster used to be for Cincinnati, used to be the safety. They brought him up. He come in like Troy Polamalu used to do. Well, we used to call it a Raiderback. I don't know what everybody else call him, but it's that one guy that's freak. And right now, that's where they're putting him in.
I don't think they're built for that. I mean, you've got Minkah Fitzpatrick making plays at the line like he's Troy Polamalu, and I like Minkah a lot, but he's not Troy Polamalu. Troy Polamalu he stands among him.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that's a terminology, but because I'm a films guy. I watch the line and I watch how people do things because I like how you play the game. I mean, the score is good. You play to win, right? But I like to see how football evolves. Like I said, when Johnny Unitas, he was still had them high-top black doggone shoes standing back there in that pocket when everybody else, like the Bobby Douglases and the Fran Tarkingtons, those guys had to move in pockets and everything. And I just believe that baby football might have passed Big Ben. Of course, he might want to be like Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner couldn't really run it, but they was the best show on turf, fastest show on turf. But I don't know. I don't like the way we're playing. But we're winning. We're in the playoffs.
Well, that's my thing. And let me ask you this question: Is you're 11-3 now, and you've got the Indianapolis Colts and the Cleveland Browns, who are two of the hottest teams in football. Indianapolis for their defense and Cleveland for their offense.
Well, wait a minute. In Indianapolis, when T.Y. Hilton came back, they became another team because Phillip Rivers is a bombardier. He's not really that great. You know, he wants to go deep. He don't want to throw those 10-yard outs.
Okay.
He wants to air it out.
I hate Phillip Rivers more than anybody almost in the world. Okay. When Bill Cowher wanted to draft him, I debated being a Steelers fan for the rest of my life. So here's where I'm at. We've got 3 tough losses, right? That sucks. But we have the ability to use this as a springboard moment for this football team. And they should be woke up by now. If they don't wake up after the Cincinnati loss, and probably the worst loss in the history of the Steelers, at least in the last 35 years, they're not gonna make it very far in the playoffs, obviously, and they've got some cuts to do. But I will say this: would these 2 wins, if they beat Indianapolis and they beat Cleveland, would they not put a lot of people in a situation that goes, well, maybe Pittsburgh's not as bad as we think they are? The same way that, you know, week 6, week 7, week 8.
Not for me, because once again it goes back to how you play. That's being way too inconsistent, and I don't want to be going forward inconsistent. I just want to play at the same level. We are who we are. We are the Pittsburgh Steelers.
But we're not that physical, Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a different team. I mean,
and that's killing me. When the last time you seen a Pittsburgh Steelers team? Really, Cincinnati is more physical than us. If you don't run the ball, you're not a physical team. If your offensive line is not beating their line up, you're not physical. I don't believe. I'm looking at this and I'm like, I can't believe it.
Because it's a different team. I mean, Baltimore is known for their defense. They're not very good. They had to change the entire way of they look at the Baltimore Ravens, and now it's Lamar Jackson. And my whole point is, you can knock Roethlisberger as much as you want. His game has worked for 17 years. And
what the heck that got to do with last night?
What I'm saying is,
he's a Hall of Famer, first ballot, unanimous Hall of Famer, but he's not that right now. You do understand that?
I understand that, but you look at who he's throwing to, and they're not that good. They're not. I'll be the first to say, listen, I hope Deontay Johnson becomes a Hall of Famer. I hope he becomes Antonio Brown. I hope he listen, you got Eric Ebron, who drops more things than anybody I've ever seen, more tight ends. Like
you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Like people like Aaron Rodgers. He's not a runner, but you'd be surprised how he'll scramble and pick up a first down.
Emmanuel, it doesn't matter.
We don't have that. We don't have that. Every other team does.
He's putting the ball on the money. He's putting the ball on the money, and his guys are dropping it. Deontay Johnson has dropped more balls than 4 football teams.
And another thing too, because I was watching it, right? Another thing too. And Ron, I want you to get in on this if you're still listening. Have you watched Ben's? You say it's not as much oomph on the fastball, but Ben's he doesn't throw his ball flutters. That's hard to catch.
Are you seriously?
Look at it. Just watch it. I seen it on film. I'm watching it.
He's not as bad as you think he is, Emmanuel. He isn't.
Hey, maybe when we stop jumping on the 50-yard line and doing TikTok videos.
He's not as good. He's not as good now as y'all say he is. He was just as good.
Hey, listen, I'm not saying Ben Roethlisberger is a productive quarterback right now.
I'm just
saying he ain't anywhere near as bad as you think he is because his receivers are making him non-productive. Don't get me wrong. He has lost juice on his fastball over the last 3 games. There is no debating that. He has, absolutely. But his receivers are not making him look good.
He's lost confidence in throwing to them, which probably takes a little bit of mustard off that fastball.
Deontay Johnson dropped at least 7 points against the Bills on that Sunday night.
Off his knee.
He's dropped more passes than 14. He's dropped more passes than 14.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, he's not helping matters. Juju Smith-Schuster, and look, I'm not going to bag on him for doing what he's been doing the last 3 weeks. He's been doing it the whole damn year. He's been doing this TikTok bullshit the whole year where he's on every single logo, and none of it mattered until a couple of weeks ago when they started losing. And now everyone's like, you need to stop doing this stuff. And Juju is now saying, well, I'm going to keep doing this stuff. Look, If you want to start a civil war with the dog pound, go try that stuff on Sunday, not this Sunday, next Sunday in Cleveland. You might get killed before the game starts. Thank God the Browns fans aren't allowed in the stadium.
What happened last
happens.
time? What happened last time?
I'm just saying.
I got video evidence. The last time a Cleveland Brown fan tried to man up, as you say, Mr. Tough Guy, James Harrison threw him down like Brock Lesnar.
I get it. I'm not saying the fans would. I'm saying someone else would. The Browns might kill him.
Oh yeah, okay. We're real scared. What are they going to do? Throw a helmet at us like they did last time? I mean, that worked out well for them.
Fellas, this is the last thing I got to say. That what we just talking about really don't sound. It kind of sounds like a dysfunctional team. We got problems. It's probably in the locker room.
When hasn't they?
Great show.
They've always been a dysfunctional family inside that locker room. I mean,
even with Le'Veon and Bell gone, they're still dysfunctional to a degree.
Roethlisberger's a drama queen.
I know.
I would never let him date my sister, but I love him as a quarterback.
He's a good quarterback. Yeah, he's a great quarterback.
There's
Absolutely.
16 teams easily that would take Ben Roethlisberger right now, and that's my argument.
They can have him.
And well, what do we got?
Yeah, that's Emmanuel. I mean, that's the other. I'm gonna side with DJ on this in that. Okay, if you're going to pass on your franchise quarterback, and he still is a franchise quarterback, you better have someone right now ready to replace him. And you don't.
I did say we're going to ride him either to crash and burn or hoist the Lombardi this year and maybe next year.
Yeah, he's only got a 2-year contract.
Looking forward. Like, I can't see him 2-3 years down the road being our quarterback.
No, he won't.
That's all I'm saying.
No, and I think that's why he has that this year and next year left, and that's it. He said, "I'm going to fulfill my contract." That's it, and that's all it should be. As it is going to be a tough day for me when he walks away, emotional day, because I know that guys like that, franchise quarterbacks, and as someone who's surrounded by Browns fans constantly and a Bills fan, they don't grow on trees.
They don't.
Well, you need to talk to Ronnie, right? Because I'm gonna tell you something. One of my favorite all-time baseball players, one of my heroes, was Willie Mays. But I can't think about Willie Mays without thinking about that old man out there trying to play out.
1973 World Series. God, that just woof.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Talk to you guys later.
Thanks. All right, see ya. Yeah, that was tough. I brought this up. Champ actually brought this up, and I'm glad you're in the studio now because we can talk about this. I said after the season is over, there's 2 quarterbacks that I wouldn't mind, if you're a Steelers fan, I wouldn't mind seeing the Steelers acquire. Carson Wentz from Philadelphia, whose confidence is completely shattered, and he is now.
Is this as a Steeler fan, or
if you're a Steeler fan?
No.
Carson Wentz could resurrect his career. He still has something left. The other guy. Unfortunately, this isn't going to happen now that the Jets screwed themselves out of the first pick overall. If I'm Pittsburgh, I'm looking at Sam Darnold, and I'm like, you know what? I'll give you a 2nd or a 3rd round draft pick, whatever floats your boat, and give me Sam Darnold, because I still contend Sam Darnold, if you get him out of New York and put him with some decent talent, can still be a very good quarterback in this league.
Mason Rudolph is Sam Darnold. I mean, that's who you're getting.
No.
It's the same caliber of quarterback.
Sam Darnold's a million times better than Mason
really?
Rudolph. Absolutely.
Do they have the same amount of wins at this point in their career?
Again, he doesn't have talent around him. He's got one receiver. He never had a running back.
What has Sam Darnold done on tape that makes you go, wow? How many highlight films is he on? Just as Sam Darnold. Because you're going to say, well, he doesn't have talent. Neither does Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow seemed to stand out pretty well in Cincinnati, even with just 2 wins. Like, that's the difference. The difference is the eye test. The difference is Ben Roethlisberger can make you go, whoa. Even on an incompletion, you go, wow. That was shook off, the biggest of the big on the front line and throws it, 40 yards downfield. Roethlisberger, everybody busts on him. Why would you throw a ball 60 yards downfield, okay, just to throw it?
No, you don't
just
need
because.
To. You don't need to.
I mean, he does these check down passes. You know why? Because what's the difference? And we talk about it on the Power Hour all the time. What's the difference between a 3-yard run and a 3-yard wide receiver screen?
There's none.
It's just you're saving your lineman a little bit.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's what the idea is. I hate Randy Fichtner of their the worst offensive coordinator league. Somebody's like, would you have Todd Haley back? Yes, in a heartbeat, because at least he's creative. I feel like you know how they always hold up the menus, essentially.
Yeah.
I feel like Randy Fichtner is a coloring book, and they're just doing it to appease him, because the idea of having Fichtner in there was let Roethlisberger run the game, let him call the game, and now he doesn't do that as much, because they're like, well, we're paying this guy, we might as well have him call a couple plays here. When he's talking to Tomlin on the sideline last night, and I'm talking about the offensive coordinator, I was like, we're done. Tomlin has nothing to do with the offense. Zero.
Yep.
He gets to go like this or like this. And that's as far as it goes. And, if you remember a couple years ago, they ran into trouble because they kept going for 2 all the time.
Yep.
When it's 4th and 10, the game on the line, and Fichtner's talking to Fichtner or whatever the hell they want to call it, I just looked at myself and I was like, we're done. My first sign that the Steelers were going to lose that game last night was when the Muppets opened it up. The Muppets.
The 2 old guys.
All the Muppets through the entire show. Number 2 was Steve Levy, which and I listen, we have announcers, sports announcers. We do it for a living.
Yeah.
He is by far the worst on national television. I thought he was absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. Just had no clue of what was going on at all. Whoever was feeding him that, and we've talked about this before, whoever was feeding him that was even worse. I was unimpressed by the Monday Night Football broadcast, other than their graphics and their fancy cameras and stuff like that. Their announce team, I would rather have us. I mean, and I know I'm a little bit biased, but at least we do some research into it and understand that when Chase Claypool's in the back of the end zone, it's not Ray McCloud. There's a little bit of a body difference to it. But then it just looked like Roethlisberger was disinterested, and I've seen this story before where he feels like nobody else is working as hard as he is, and he's not exactly the leader that everybody looks up to in Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes or anybody like that. Roethlisberger is a diva, and if he gets pumped up whenever things are going well. Whenever things aren't going well, he'll either get an injury, go into the locker room, come back out on a white steed with a broadsword, acting like he's He-Man, and then he'll come back and win the game. And I can complain about it, but he wins the game. He's in a situation right now where his team isn't very good. His defense is outstanding. Deontay Johnson's from Toledo. You've got Chase Claypool, Notre Dame, vastly underutilized right now. He's got a running back from Kentucky who talks about himself in the third person. Your backup is from Maryland, who is about 3'3", and it's just lightning in a bottle. However, your offensive line can't block for some reason. You got 3 Pro Bowlers on that offensive line, and they can't block. I don't understand.
DeCastro's a Pro Bowler in name by now. That's just.
He is.
I love the guy, and I wish he would have been.
And Pouncey's the same way. He missed half the season, and he got into the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, it's become the gold glove of
and Villanueva
baseball or football.
And he's nothing more than a turnstile right now. I mean, that backup defensive tackle took his lunch 800 times last night. If there was 900 snaps, 899 of them went to the other side. Listen, Steeler fans, stay off the bridges. It's not over. But I will say this.
You're in the playoffs.
And I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
If they had something to fight for, I think. But
you might have something to fight for next Sunday, depending on what happens.
All right. And let's get this. The Browns fans, chill out. Chill out. Learn how to win, because you've lost for so long. I think you forgot how to win. Relax, okay? You got to beat Pittsburgh. And I know it doesn't look very hard right now because Cincinnati did it, but Pittsburgh also beat Baltimore twice. Something that you haven't done. So if you want to go apples to apples comparison, you got that too. So
well, the other out the Browns have is, okay, if they beat the Jets, Miami, Baltimore, or Indianapolis, should one of those 3 teams lose, they're in the playoffs. Then, all right, we're in the playoffs anyway. So yeah, you'd like to win the North, but what I said earlier was, Browns fans right now remind me of a contestant on Let's Make a Deal. You've got this little box where you've won something pretty significant, and then the game show host, being the diva that he is and the devilish person that he is, says, okay, you've won this, but we can have this traded in for what's behind curtain number 2. And Browns fans can be like, yeah, curtain number 2 could be an AFC North title. See, Dolphins, Dolphins win or lose, whatever. Let's say the Dolphins win. Colts beat the Steelers. Browns beat the Jets. Ravens win. AFC North. This could happen. I'm going to take curtain number 2. Except Pittsburgh beats Cleveland. Buffalo doesn't have anything to play for. They're sitting their regulars. Miami wins. There's 1 out. Baltimore is playing a jabroni. There's 2 outs. Keep in mind, Baltimore is keeping Cleveland down because they've beaten Cleveland's ass twice and they have all the tiebreakers, so they've kept them down. And Indianapolis wins their game, and now bada bing, bada bang, bada boom. Cleveland's here, and they're the 8th seed, and they're 11-5, and they just went. They're not in the playoffs. So be careful playing Let's Make a Deal, because curtain number 2 might be a jackass instead of a new car.
Yeah, I just, you look at all the things that could happen between now and then, and my timeline, for whatever reason, is full of, whoa, where are these Pittsburgh fans talking. Like, maybe I don't have a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans, but they don't talk a lot. And the only thing they ever talk about is 6 Super Bowl championships, when most of them weren't alive for 4 of them. So my thing is this. I could die. I could go outside right now and get hit by a bus, and there's probably a lot of people that would wish that on me, but I've still seen my championship caliber team in the NFL twice raise a championship.
I've seen it 6 times.
So
but that's not my team.
When you look at this, like the AFC North, and you and I have went back and forth. The AFC North doesn't mean anything to me, because the Steelers won it as a 6th seed.
Yeah, you have a culture.
Yeah,
you have a culture.
It means nothing. It's a hat and a T-shirt.
Yeah, you have a culture.
Congratulations.
You've won a championship before. You have a culture, and while people don't want to hear this, it's the truth. Since 1972, the Steelers have been the gold standard for football teams in this league. They are the gold standard. One of a handful of teams that are a gold standard, because they've done it for 47, 48 years.
And I do want to bring this up, because I saw this right before I came in here, because I couldn't handle Emmanuel anymore talking trash on my boy Ben Roethlisberger. So there is a Browns fan out there that is asking a question.
Yes.
And I want you to educate him in the most... I don't want you to belittle him. I want you to educate him in the most Ron Potesta way you possibly can.
Yes.
The question was essentially, why don't the World Championships count as Super Bowl championships? And there was a wink face and a nudge, like a happy face, because he's a Browns fan, and I think he's putting the cart before the horse. So go ahead and educate why the Super Bowl championships are different than the World Championships.
Well, the Super Bowl championships were basically 2 leagues. The AFL became the rebel, outlandish, we're going to play our games at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the NFL is going to play their games at 1 o'clock. This was the rebel league that everyone said, oh, God, come on, stop. You guys are never going to be as good as the NFL. And then they started signing guys, Joe Willie Namath and Cookie Gilchrist and a bunch of other guys. All of a sudden, in the mid-'60s, the AFL said, yeah, we can kick your ass. They got big. They said, we can take care of business. And the NFL said, wait a second. We have to show these guys we mean business. So in 1966, which would be January 1967, the NFL and the AFL decided, hey, we're going to play a championship game after our championship games. And let's call it some name. And Lamar Hunt's daughter used to play with those Super Balls.
Yep.
And Lamar Hunt said, Super Bowl. This is a great idea. So Super Bowl I came in 1967, and of course, Green Bay beat the living hell out of Kansas City. Vince Lombardi was the god at the time, small g. Super Bowl number 2, Green Bay's back in it, 3rd straight NFL championship. They play the Raiders, who won the AFL championship, and Green Bay beat the living hell out of them again. Now, what people don't realize is Prior to Super Bowl III, the agreement was already in place. The AFL and the NFL were going to merge in 1970. The framework was in place. Everything was in place. Baltimore blows out Cleveland in the 68 NFL championship game. The New York Jets beat the Oakland Raiders in the 68 AFL championship game. New York is a 17.5-point, 18-point underdog against the Baltimore Colts. Joe Namath says, we're going to win this game, I guarantee it. Everyone starts laughing at him. The Jets beat the shit out of the Colts 16-7. Nobody's laughing anymore. And in the last NFL season, now that everything is all together, in 1970, the AFL is going to come to the NFL, except we need 3 franchises from the NFL to leave the NFL and go to now the AFC. And Baltimore said, we'll do it. Cleveland said, we'll do it. And Rooney said, well, if Modell's leaving, I'm going too, because I like playing my team against his team, so we'll do it. So those 3 teams went from the NFL to the AFL, which becomes in 1970 the AFC. In the final Super Bowl, Minnesota beats Cleveland in the 69 NFL championship game. Kansas City beats, and I'm not sure who Kansas City beat in the AFL championship game. Minnesota gets destroyed by Kansas City in Super Bowl IV, and then they said, perfect ending. AFL won 2 championships. NFL won 2 championships. Everyone's together. Everyone's singing Kumbaya. And now we have
AFC, NFC.
Super Bowl. And Super Bowl V is basically now under the NFL umbrella,
right,
where the first 4 Super Bowls were not under the NFL umbrella, which, again, this is my argument, technical argument, Bart Starr, who everyone says won 5 championships, no, he has won 7 championships. He won 5 NFL championships, 61, 62, 62, 63, 65, 66, 67, and he won 2 Super Bowls. Super Bowl I and II. Bart Starr won 7 championships. Just technicality, but nonetheless, that's how the NFL and the AFL came together and had the Super Bowl, where Cleveland has been to 5 championship games, 2 NFL championship games, lost to the Baltimore Colts in the 68 title game, lost to the Vikings in the 69 title game, and then the 3 losses to the Broncos in the AFC championship game. So they're 0 for 5 in conference championship games.
So if you're a Cleveland fan, old or new generation, would you be rushing to IKEA right now to get your trophy case?
I wouldn't be wanting to do anything right now because you're going to be one and done.
Because I feel like, and listen, I think right now,
depending on the matchup.
I said it yesterday. People thought I was crazy, and then I heard it on my ride up to the pool. I think the Browns could beat the Chiefs. Right? They would give the Chiefs problems. I really do. I really do. Yep.
They'd get annihilated.
I don't think so.
They'd get annihilated.
They and Baltimore are the only teams.
Good.
They and Baltimore. And listen, nobody's going to give the Chiefs the defense of the year, right?
No.
Okay. So all it takes is really stretching out that drive, which Cleveland's been very good at in the last 3 or 4 weeks, going toe-to-toe with Baltimore. Baltimore and Cleveland, I think, are the only teams that could really hamper the Chiefs in the playoffs. I really think so.
You're
going to say Buffalo.
There's 2 teams. There's 2 teams that I think are a existential threat to Kansas City. And one, believe it or not, is the team that's playing by far their worst football. If somehow, some way, Mike Tomlin can get this rather large object out of the backside of this organization, the Steelers are an existential threat of beating the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think the Bills are the second team.
See, I think I really think that the Steelers, if they don't get, you're going to know real fast.
Oh,
this
God,
Sunday.
yeah,
You're going to know this Sunday. If Indianapolis whoops up on them, they're not waking up.
If they're disinterested on Sunday, then there's something seriously wrong.
Yeah, there's either internal issues or something's going on because there's something's off, and it could just be they're playing bad football. And they like last night they woke up and I saw your messages. somebody woke up the Steelers.
Exactly. I was like, okay, when they went, we're going to go 14 straight. I'm like, okay, now they're okay. Let's go. Let's have some fun here.
Yep.
Let's see what happens. And then they just, that was it. That was their
Baltimore is a team that I think can make a dent in the playoffs. There's a lot of teams that hope that Baltimore doesn't get in.
No, Baltimore can be fun to watch.
I think they could give the Chiefs a real big run for their money. I think, and again, like this is a Steeler fan saying this, the two AFC North teams are probably better suited to play the AFC the Super Bowl champions, but the AFC champions and the Chiefs. And, you know, I think the Steelers can beat them. I think but that's just the Steeler fan in me. I'm not seeing much in the way. If they score, Jesus, Ron, they score 20 points, what are we going to do?
Nothing.
There's nothing we can do.
Nothing.
You know, when the Bengals hang 24 on you, you sit there and you go, or 27.
There's something there. Look, Hayden's not making plays right now, and that's not on him. I mean, it's just, again, there's so many problems right now with this team.
Well, the offense had 3 turnovers in the first half that put the defense in bad situation.
And put him in a bad situation, absolutely. You can't gain a yard because you don't have a running back. You don't have an offensive line that's getting a push, and that's a bad combination. Then you got a 38-year-old quarterback that's lost some RPMs on his fastball, and that's a bad thing. And then you got a defense that's now gotten tired because the offense isn't doing their job. It's just a rotating pile of garbage right now. But here's the key. They're in the playoffs.
That's all. You got a seat at the table.
To get a seat at the table, you can fix some things. But now, having said that, historically, and I said this at the beginning of the show after we talked about girls basketball, which was a lot of fun last night, by the way. The last time a team went 11-0 and lost 3 games in a row, actually 4 games in a row, you would have to go back to the 1969 NFL season, the last NFL season before the AFL and NFL merged. The 69 Los Angeles Rams were 11-0 and well on their way to being an all-time great team. Final 3 games of the year, they lost to the Minnesota Vikings in Bloomington. They lost to Detroit. They lost to the Baltimore Colts. They still win their division. They win their division handily. They play the Minnesota Vikings in the divisional playoff game back in Bloomington. The Vikings beat them by 3 points. The Vikings beat the Browns for the NFL championship. They lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And the Rams are like, what the hell just happened? We were 11-0. What just happened here? And that's the last time anyone has lost 4 games in a row. And the Steelers are one bad outing away from tying that record.
I don't
care. Just, I mean, it's from a historical standpoint, I'm looking at this going, we've never seen this.
No.
I mean, most people have never seen it. Hell, I was 5. I didn't even watch football. At least I don't remember watching it back then. Most of us have never seen something like this before. This is, I got to talk to my dad and the generation before to find out what the hell happened here. Were there injuries? Were there what? But this is weird. Yeah. It's just, but they have a seat at the table. And if they can turn this around, I still believe they are one of 2 teams in this conference that have an existential threat to Kansas City, Buffalo being the other team. Because I think Buffalo is, I would not want to play this Buffalo team right now. They're ungodly right now. This team is ridiculous. And I'm waiting for someone to just go and just say, okay, you've had your fun. But I don't see it happening.
It's all about runs. It's all about runs. It's all about getting hot. And listen, I don't think the Steelers are out of it by any stretch.
No.
If they win the next 2 games, I think those are 2 impressive victories. More impressive than losing 3. You
can still have the 2 seed. Hell, you can still have the 1 seed right now. But Kansas City would have to crap on themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen. I mean, we've seen it the last 3 weeks. But less focus about that and more focus about just playing good football. Because if they're playing good football, it doesn't matter who the 1 seed is. They can beat. And like I heard you talk about it's at Lambeau or what. It doesn't matter where it's at this year. It doesn't matter.
Well, it matters. It matters to dome teams.
Well, yeah, but my team's not a dome team.
Your team's not a dome. It's not going to.
Cleveland's
not
a dome team.
It's not. It's going to. Anywhere they go, it's going to matter because their back 7 is still god awful. And it's
that doesn't matter where they play.
No, but when they get on the field and they're playing a playoff caliber team, Look, I love what the Browns have done, and I think Stefanski is hands down sent them the jury, the coach of the year. But if this team finishes 12-4, assuming that they can win both of their games, who knows if they do or if they don't. If they win both of their games and they're the number 5 seed or they're the number 4 or the number 3, they're going to beat the first round. And I say that because that back 7 is going to be a problem, because when you're not playing, you're
so
not playing
the
have-nots anymore.
They're not going to play the Giants and the Jets.
You're not going to be playing. You're not going to be playing grade A dog crap anymore. Now you're going to be playing someone whose skill set is a little bit bigger than Cincinnati. No
I say
disrespect.
that because everybody
the
just
Giants. No disrespect.
Yep.
You're going to think about this. Assuming, Buffalo's won the East, Kansas City's won the West. I'm going to say the Steelers win the North for lack of whatever. And I'm going to say Indianapolis wins the South because Tennessee's not beating Green Bay in Lambeau this week.
Why? We just talked about it.
I don't think I think Green Bay is playing for a 1 seed, and I think Green Bay wants. Green Bay
They could lose and still get the 1 seed.
Yeah, but New Orleans
playing very good.
They're not. Yeah, I agree with you. And Breeze might have came back a little too quick, but neither here nor there. I think Indianapolis wins the South.
Okay.
So let's say that the Browns are whoever, 5, 6, or 7. Browns don't match up against the Colts. Even though they beat them earlier in the year, they do not match up against the Colts. The Colts defensively were not there when the Browns played them. They had a lot of guys down, and that offensive line is probably the only line of the remaining teams in the postseason that will look at Myles Garrett and say, bitch, please. We got an offensive line that's going to make you you're not even going to get anywhere near Phillip Rivers. And if you have that,
I hate Phillip Rivers.
The defensive backs are going to look at this and go, where's the pass rush? Because we suck and we need a pass rush. They're mismatched horribly against the Colts. If the Titans win the division, okay, Cleveland can play with Tennessee. Because Cleveland's got a good run defense.
No pass rush from Tennessee. Third down, worse in the league.
Cleveland can play with Tennessee. Cleveland can play with Tennessee. Pittsburgh, if they're healthy, no, Pittsburgh can pretty much take care of you. No.
Okay.
Buffalo, Josh Allen will throw for 400 yards on this team and won't even break a sweat. That's how good Buffalo is right now.
Oh my gosh,
I'm gonna throw up. They don't match up well with those two.
Let's put this in perspective while you're talking about Buffalo. Buffalo beat the Steelers by 11.
Yes.
Cincinnati beat us by 10.
I understand. Yeah, I agree. But Buffalo could have scored more if they wanted to.
Could they?
Oh, absolutely, they could have.
Okay.
They dominated that
Why
game.
Didn't they? Why didn't they? They just thought, you know what? We don't need the points.
They just
okay. Well,
they're a fun team to watch. They are. Now, having said that, could Buffalo lose them? Well, if Buffalo has to play Kansas City, Buffalo has to play Tennessee. I'd love to see them play Tennessee again. However, I know the Bills have one trait that I'm not necessarily convinced that they're still, which is the run defense, which ironically enough, depending on the tempo of the game, Cleveland could actually play a decent game against Buffalo if they leave Baker's 25, 30 passes.
Cleveland
can go with Chubb and Hunt to do a lot of damage against Buffalo? Maybe.
Cleveland beats Buffalo. Baltimore beats Buffalo. Buffalo beats Pittsburgh. Buffalo versus Kansas City is a good game. Buffalo beats Miami. I think with relative ease.
Buffalo could stub their toe against 2 or 3 teams in the AFC if they're on their B game. If they're playing how they're playing now, there is not a team in the NFL that can beat the Buffalo Bills.
Shut up.
Not the way they're playing right now.
Shut up.
The way they're playing right now, there is nobody better than this.
Why? Why?
They should be on a 7-game winning streak had it not been for the Hail Murray full of grace. The football gods are with thee.
Hey, knock it down. If they're that good, knock it down.
Man, they should have. Damn that 5'9" corner that can't touch the ball.
Knock it down.
It was a great play.
It was 3-on-1, right? Knock it down.
It was a great play. It was a great throw. It was a great catch.
Knock it down.
That was wonderful.
That's my thing. Is anybody? That's why it's any given Sunday.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So when fans pop up and puff their chest out and they say nobody can beat my team
If
if they're
they're
playing
playing
their
the
best.
way- if they're
guess
playing
what?
this.
Guess what? Nobody's ever playing their best for 17 weeks and then go into the playoffs. It's never been done except for the 1972
72
Dolphins.
Miami Dolphins.
So guess what, Ronnie?
I know. And listen,
I know you like hedging your bets, but the odds are against you even there.
Oh, of course. Of course.
So
I mean, you're only going to have one champion. That's why you
I'm not
even the favorite is a 3 or 4 to 1 pick, which tells you that it's a crapshoot.
It's anybody's game.
It's a crapshoot. There's no guarantee. Hell, even the closest guarantee we had in our lifetime, albeit I was 8 years old when the Dolphins did this, but in our lifetime, the New England Patriots were 18-0, ready to go unseat the Dolphins as the greatest team of all time. They went up against Eli, and well, the rest is history.
Eli owns the Patriots, owns Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'm glad someone does.
I gotta go.
Because Buffalo sure as hell didn't. 330-886-0813. We're back in a bit. Stick around, more to come.
It's storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Rain will come and go tomorrow. There'll be some dry intervals.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
Ah, the details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
No matter what the weather, be prepared with a reliable, efficient Rude gas furnace or air conditioner from MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Call your energy-efficient expert, MP Vivo, today for a free estimate.
Here at MP Vivo, we rely on Rude, and so should you.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
This is Jim Myers with Myers Family Insurance, your local Medicare and retirement resource. We're excited to have sports back. Whether you're on the field or cheering from the stands, sports unifies communities and brings hope for the future. We're all one team working together. At Myers Family Insurance, we know the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Point, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. If you're in the market for a new or slightly used automobile, you need to check out the good folks at Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. They got a fabulous sales department, fantastic finance department, and a great service department. And those are the three things that are so vitally important when you're looking for a new or slightly used automobile. And Greenwood Chevrolet has all three of those: a finance and the sales department and a great service department. All right, speaking of service, YSU did a service to its men's basketball program over the weekend as they were able to split with Northern Kentucky, including their first victory at the BBC Arena. And joining me to talk about the split would be the voice of the YSU men's basketball program, Rob Schmidt. Mr. Schmidt, sir, how are you today?
It's a good day. It's a good day. Get some running done, get your stuff ready, and enjoy the weekend for Christmas.
Indeed. And that's why we have you on now instead of Thursday, because, well, we weren't doing a show on Thursday, so there you go. Hey, obviously, when we spoke last, we were talking about the importance of winning game number one. Well, that kind of went out the window. YSU lost to Northern Kentucky 79-64 on Saturday, but the Penguins, man, did they show some they showed some moxie in game number two in front of a nationwide audience. They knock off Northern Kentucky and look really impressive in doing so, getting the victory 70-60. It was quite the weekend for the Penguins.
Well, you know, as we had talked about, these back-to-back games, whether they're Saturday, Sunday, or when we get to January and February, Friday, Saturday, it's all about how bad you really want it, and really it comes down to, you know, a veteran leadership. And the difference between the two games this past weekend in Northern Kentucky was really energy. You know, there are no fans allowed right now for Horizon League games in the month of December. And it showed, it was evident Saturday in that Northern Kentucky in the second half just had a little bit more get up and go. And I think it took our guys a little bit by surprise, the lack of a crowd, whether they're cheering for you, cheering against you, or just sitting there. And then Sunday, after they realized what was necessary, the bench really came alive. And it wasn't so much what they did on the floor; it was really kind of what they did in a supporting role along the team bench, and that was just kind of give our guys a little pick me up when they needed them. I thought their focus in the second half Sunday was dramatically different, and the Penguins, which had struggled in the first half through the first three non-league games, and you had seen two of them, Ron, played really well in the first half of both games, Saturday and Sunday at Northern Kentucky, and the difference was, for the most part, you got to make shots, and Northern Kentucky did that on Saturday, and then you got to be able to shoot free throws down the stretch. And our guys did that both days, but it was more apparent on Sunday in the win.
Two things that I looked at, and on either direction. Youngstown State in the past, if I would have told you that through the course of the weekend, the engine that arguably the engine makes the offense run was a combined 6 of 20 for the weekend, and that would be Darius Quisenberry. You would think the first impression would be, oh God, this wasn't a good weekend for Youngstown State. This is encouraging because Quisenberry struggled. There's no two ways about it. 4 of 12 from the floor on Saturday, 2 of 8 from the floor on Sunday. And yet the Penguins not only were in both games, they won one of those games, ran out of gas in the first game. And one of the reasons why was the other half of this. And we talked about the possibility of how good Michael Akuche can be when he's not in foul trouble. 15 points and 9 rebounds in game number 1, 14 points and 12 rebounds in game number 2. I would say that Mr. Akuche, as long as he's not in foul trouble, is going to be quite the threat for the Penguins this year.
Well, and you saw it in Sunday. If you looked at the box score, they didn't use, Coach Calhoun really shortened his bench. They only had one guy score off the bench, and that was Alex Vargo, who hit 2 big threes in Sunday's win. And, they needed him to start to emerge, and it looks like the freshman might be starting to break loose a little bit. But he was the only guy to score off the bench. So the starting 5 for YSU is solid. And if you're not going to go deep into your bench, then those 5 guys have to contribute most nights. And as you mentioned, Darius is dealing with a tender ankle right now. It's kind of limited his ability to move either with or without the ball. But the nice thing was, and we had talked to him yesterday on the coach's show, was his teammates' ability to still get the win, kind of pick up the slack when he wasn't scoring. And I think Akuche had a lot to do with that. Garrett Covington on Sunday had a lot to do with that. Shamir Rattan-Mays, the other freshman, hit 3 threes and some really big ones. So, that was the difference. Saturday, Northern Kentucky, hit some really big threes. This kid named Adam Alita hit 6. Their freshman, who's very good, Marquez Warwick, hit 3. And they were nowhere really to be found on Sunday. Our guys did a much better job adjusting to them, finding out where they are on the floor, and not really losing them. Coach Calhoun was surprised there weren't more splits in the league in the opening weekend. I mean, the YSU Northern Kentucky series was really the only one that was a split over the weekend.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the rest of the league, and obviously Detroit. A lot of folks will say, well, it's a one-man team. I mean, maybe, but he's certainly a legitimate player. There's no two ways about that. But the talent level around him didn't show up that weekend, and they lose 2 straight. Who was it? Green Bay that beat them 2 straight, Rob?
Wright State beat them
Wright
twice.
State, I'm sorry. Cleveland State knocked off Fort Wayne. Milwaukee won 2 in a row. So, I mean, there's some schools that are off to great starts. And obviously now knowing that, it was really important that the Penguins won Sunday's game, because last thing you want to do is fall behind 4 or 5 different teams 2 games back because of the 2-game shift that can happen when you lose 2 and let's say 1 or 2 teams decide to win 2. That's 2 games that you've just separated between yourself and the other team, and not in a good way.
No, you're 100% right. It was for Wright State, they showed why they're preseason number 1. Loudon Love and Grant Basile really played well, and that was their strength, the inside game, their strength inside. Detroit, as good as Antoine Davis is, and a couple of guys that have stepped up so far, they still don't have anybody inside that can control Loudon Love or even Grant Basile. So, it was not surprising to see Wright State beat Detroit Mercy twice. Green Bay still dealing with having adjusted to a new coach. Milwaukee has Tejan Lucas, who's really good. I think they had a little more continuity. I was surprised they won 2 at Green Bay, but not overly surprised that they won both at Green Bay. Green Bay's going to struggle, and they come here to play our men on January 1st and 2nd. The game, the one I thought might be a split was Oakland at UIC. I thought that was the other series outside of ours at Northern Kentucky that matched 2 teams that are fairly equal. And, for UIC to come back and win game 1 and then blow Oakland out in game 2, I thought was a little bit of a surprise. All of a sudden now Oakland's 0-9. So we'll find out where that team is at this weekend and following up next weekend if they can bounce back or not.
Well, UIC, you and I were talking about this. Everyone was raving about UIC's start. Now, granted, an 0-7 Oakland team prior to the doubleheader sweep, or a 2-game sweep, if you will. UIC, they're going to be a thorn in everyone's side, or at least it looks that way.
No, I agree. I think UIC is going to be one of the teams that could be in the top 4, easily top 5. They had a lot of transfers come in. Brand new coach, but obviously he's been able to adapt well to them. I haven't seen them, so I don't know. I don't know if they've got more of an inside presence now. Oakland really doesn't have much of an inside presence. They're a perimeter team. They're not going to be like they were a year ago with some size inside. You're going to be able to get to the basket on them. So I think for Oakland, it's going to be more of a mental thing moving forward now to try and get that win and balance out who's going to shoot, because Rashad Williams really loves to shoot it and can shoot it well. But, I think they're a better team if they spread the ball, especially since they don't have much inside. So it'll be a big weekend for Oakland. I know it's a big weekend for our guys. Coming off of that win Sunday on national television, you sure don't want to go up to Cleveland State and stub your toe. The Vikings are going to be they play really hard, and that's going to be where our guys are going to have to step it up. They're going to have to play real hard in front of nobody. Now, on the norm, Cleveland State doesn't have a lot of fans anyways, but now they'll have nobody, and that includes none of our fans. Usually, we'll get 100-200 fans of our own to go up to Cleveland. So our guys are going to have to play hard. Cleveland State's tough defensively. They just had a kid, junior college transfer named Demoy Hodge, go off for 46 points in their game on Sunday. The kid I like is Torrey Patton. He's really consistent. He can go inside and out. I think he's a kid that you got to be concerned with because he's going to get you double figures every game.
The one team that has always been the team that no matter how good they are, no matter how bad they are, they always get a split with Youngstown State is the team that we're going to be playing, Cleveland State. I don't know what it is about this team, but Youngstown State and Cleveland State always bring out either the best or worst in each other. And you rarely do you see one of these teams own the other during the course of the season.
No, it'll be an ugly game, both of them, Saturday and Sunday. But our guys now, they like winning ugly. They felt Sunday's win over Northern Kentucky was winning ugly. I really didn't think so. Our guys controlled the second half, led by as many as 13. I thought they looked good winning. Cleveland State's going to make our guys play ugly. Darius is going to have a good game. The freshman Rattan Mays is going to have to handle their pressure. I like their point guard, Craig Baudouin. I think he does a nice job of running an offense. He's really good defensively. It's going to come down to making shots. Our guys are going to have to make them early and gain some confidence.
One guy that really scored some points for me, no pun intended, over the weekend was Alex Vargo. And this kid's a freshman, and I love both he and Mays. Rattan Mays it's like looking at Darius Quisenberry from 2 years ago. He has that much talent. And I absolutely love Vargo. He is a pure shooter, and when he gets going, my God, is it fun to see. And Sunday he got going. He's just has one of those pure strokes that when he's in a groove, you can envision him going off and going 6 of 6 from the floor with 5 3-pointers because he has that caliber range.
Well, he's got that shooter's mentality for sure. As you talked about, he hit those 2 big threes at Northern Kentucky and then come out on one possession, missed a 3, got the offensive rebound. They kicked it back out, shot another 3, missed that. They got the offensive rebound. He wanted it again. He's definitely not shy. He's got that mentality of shoot it till you make it and get into a groove. And I think, his time will come when he gets to that point, like you had mentioned, where he gets 5-6 in a game.
One of the other things that impressed me, and I know last year it was kind of rough watching the guys shoot free throws, but over the weekend against Northern Kentucky, 36 of 46 from the free throw line. I mean, I'll take that any day of the week and twice on Sunday. That's well over 70%. And for me, whether you're in high school, whether you're in college, whether you're in the pros, you're 15 feet from the basket. Nobody is around you. You can take reasonable amount of time and relax. If you can't hit 70% from the free throw line, work on it, because that's something that is very important, especially when your team is trailing and you get to the free throw line. You can take some points off of a opposition's lead without that clock being turned on. So that's why free throws are so very important in this game. And it was good to see the Penguins have a really good weekend where they went 36 of 46 from the free throw line.
And if I'm not mistaken now, and I know I have it, but I don't have it in front of me. The YSU men have attempted more free throws than their opponents in all 5 games so far this season. And in fact, I don't even think on a couple of occasions it's been even close. And they really shot much more from the line in the 2 games at Northern Kentucky. The difference was our guys didn't shoot it well enough from the field for the free throw shooting to make a difference in Saturday's loss, where it made a difference because both teams shot it fairly equally in Sunday's game, and the free throws it was the difference in that contest on Sunday.
And the other thing, and they take the ball to the basket. And that's how you're going to be drawing all these fouls. I mean, if you take the ball to the basket and somebody harms you along the way, well, you're going to the free throw line for 2 shots, unless, of course, the official believes that the foul occurred on the floor prior to the shot and the other team has less than 7 fouls, then you're taking the ball out of bounds under your own basket. But 9 times out of 10, if you take the ball to the basket, you're going to go to the free throw line for 2 shots.
Well, and you're getting guys to accumulate individual fouls. So if you've got one of their better players who picks up 2, as you well know, he's going to the bench for most of the first half. We saw it Saturday, when Quisenberry fouled out of the game against Northern Kentucky. Regardless of the ankle, he just never got into the flow of the game because of foul trouble. So, Sunday, a couple of their guys started to rack up fouls quickly. They never got into the flow, including the 2 guys that led them to the win on Saturday in Alita and the Marquez kid. Those kids never got going Sunday. They just because of fouls.
And the other guy, and it seems like he's always someone that you really don't talk about as much as you should talk about him because he's just so damn impressive. But you expect a double-double from Naz Bohannon, and, well, pretty much got a double-double from Naz Bohannon, although he had 8 rebounds on Saturday. But, the guy averaged 15.5 points a game in the two games against Northern Kentucky. And you can pencil him in for at least 10 points, at least 10 rebounds, and he's going to give you some solid defense in the interior, and he's going to give you a couple of offensive rebounds, stats that don't show up particularly in a box score, but if you see the game, you know how important those offensive rebounds are. I mean, Naz Bohannon, it's a crime that he wasn't first-team All-League last year. And it's an even bigger crime that he's not first-team preseason this year.
Well, he's playing like a first-teamer right now. He's the best player for the YSU men right now, by far and away the most consistent because of what he's been able to do, and he's been making big free throws here as of late. So he's been the stalwart. He's been the guy they expected as a senior to solidify everything they want to do. And, Naz is doing everything that you would want out of a young man, going into his 4th year, and hopefully he gets, he's going to get a 5th year because of this year's COVID season and everybody getting a grace period. So, no, he's been miraculous. And we don't talk enough about it because you're right, you expect that out of him. He's averaging 19 points a game right now. I think Jamie Hall put it out. He's averaging the most points, most rebounds. He's doing it all, and he's really been incredible. And I don't know if it's been most overall rebounds. It might be most offensive rebounds because I know the kid from Northern Kentucky, Trayvon Faulkner, and what was his name? The other kid, they got a kid named Adrian who's been averaging like 12 rebounds a game. Adrian Nelson. Adrian Nelson's been averaging 12, and I think he leads the league along with Loudon Love. But what Naz has been doing right now is one reason why the guys are 4-1.
Look, obviously we're 5 games in, and hopefully, knock on wood, a 23-game schedule. And clearly we're in the beginning stages. But have you spoken to some of the seniors, knowing full well that we do have a grace year where this is a gimme year, and all the seniors and practically everyone has an extra year of eligibility? Have you spoken to any of those seniors and asked them flat out, hey, are you planning on coming back?
I have not. I think it'll depend on how the season goes. I would be surprised. I don't know. That's a good question. I really can't speak for them. No, I have not asked any of them as of yet. I think we're maybe a little too far into the process to see how this season goes. Are they excited? Are they disappointed? They'll graduate. Do they have job prospects? Family commitments. There's a lot to be weighed into their decision, and it's probably a little too soon for them to make that decision right now.
No question. But the aspect of this being a repeat year in 2021, 2022, I got to believe that some of those seniors are thinking, hey man, if we accomplish what we want to accomplish this year, who's to say we all can't come back and make an even deeper run the next year? I
agree, and I think that's how the season unfolds. If they're excited with the prospects of coming back and doing this all over again, and you're right. I think if they could taste, whether it's a Horizon League championship game and an NCAA tournament appearance, and obviously experience makes a big difference. If you know what it takes to get to the title game and win it, and then we were in the tournament. Let's not just be wide-eyed. Let's go to the tournament now, knowing what to expect for the week, and we can maybe win a game or two. So I agree with you. I think how this season goes and the excitement that they can create and the thrills that they can have, might very well play into those decisions for next year.
Rob Schmidt, play-by-play broadcaster for the YSU men's basketball team, joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning hotline. Rob, before we let you go, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, Penguins are in action. Now, for New Year's Day, it's going to be at Beagley, and December will be over. So here we are, January the 1st and January the 2nd. Tell everyone if there is plans for fans to be allowed at Beagley New Year's Day and January the 2nd. Well, I think they're starting to make those decisions for the league. The presidents have to vote on it. If I was to make a guess, I think the league extends its no attendance policy into January, or at least early January, through what they've done here in the month of December. So I don't know that I'm real optimistic that we'll have people in attendance for that the two doubleheaders on January 1 and January 2, because the women will play at 1 o'clock on both days, the men play at 4 o'clock. I'm hopeful, but I'm not optimistic. You're keeping me busy while Notre Dame is playing Alabama, which is probably a good thing given what Notre Dame normally does in a playoff setting. I'm just going to let that one go. But the good news, and those that are Buckeye fans, the good news is this game is going to be long over, and hopefully it's a Penguin victory, and then you can keep the good times rolling when Ohio State plays Clemson. I agree. I would agree. I think those two football games will be interesting. I mean, obviously Alabama and Clemson are favored, and rightfully so. But you never know. That's why they play them. Well, I'll tell you who's going to be rightfully favored when Youngstown State plays Green Bay. Both games, it's going to be Youngstown State. And I'll be curious to see what the wise guys have to think about the series coming up with Cleveland State as well. Because like I said, Cleveland State and YSU have always played Splitsville in the two games. And I'll be really curious to see if YSU can go up to the Convocation Center on Christmas Day and the day after Christmas and get two out of Cleveland State. That'd be huge, Ron. I mean, if they can, if you start 3-1 and you 4 of those games roll on the road, that's huge. So, I mean, I'd like to see them try to continue to build off of the momentum that they had in Sunday's win, but it won't be easy. But at least they've shown the ability now to bounce back and play hard after a disappointing, game on Saturday. The way they played on Sunday, that's encouraging. Be interesting. Should be a good series this weekend up in Cleveland. Given all of the teams that went 2-0, the teams that are 0-2, they're behind the 8 ball already. Because help me out, Rob. There were 5 games played in the league, and Robert Morris bowed out. And who was the other team that bowed out in this? IUPUI. So okay. You're right. So the schedule got jostled at the last minute. Cleveland State did not want to go to Pennsylvania since it's a red state, so their series at Robert Morris was called off.
Then IUPUI went into quarantine, and their series against Purdue-Fort Wayne was called off, and they matched up Cleveland State and Purdue-Fort Wayne. So that made the 2 wins by Cleveland State, I think, even that much more impressive because they didn't have a lot. Neither team really had a lot of time to prepare for one another. Cleveland State had to travel to Fort Wayne. I think the disappointing thing for Robert Morris, they had to go out and get 2 non-league games and got beat by Bowling Green on Friday by 20 and then lost to Marshall on Sunday. So, they scrambled, tried to find some games. I'm sure it got them some experience. Didn't do them much in the win-loss column. But the game, there's already one series canceled this weekend. IUPUI still in quarantine, from what I understand, and their matchup against Detroit Mercy has been canceled. So, depending on what else plays out these next few days, Detroit Mercy and IUPUI will not be playing this weekend.
Okay, so IUPUI will be down 4 games. Is there any hope that those 4 games can be made up, Rob?
I think there's a week at the end of the regular season before the tournament begins that you can get in a couple of games. They're going to have to try and shoehorn a couple others, maybe on a Tuesday. And then, you got to get a waiver since you're inside the 5-day grace period before you start a new series. They might be able to try and get something done on a Tuesday. But you're right. It sure puts IUPUI behind the 8 ball with their first 4 games being, canceled or at least postponed.
Yeah, and again, the teams that are 0-2, they're immediately in the 8 ball. And this first week just showed me just how important getting a 2-game sweep is. And if you're able to get a 2-game sweep for 2 or 3 straight weeks, you can really separate yourself from the rest of the league.
Well, it's different now because usually you play Thursday, Saturday against 2 completely different teams. When you look at travel partners, a lot of times it was, okay, we should be able to get a win here, and then, we're hopeful for this game. There was always one team out of the 2 that you felt pretty good about playing. Now, you're playing the same team back-to-back. If you're going up against Wright State, you've got to hope for a split. I mean, to try and get a sweep is going to be difficult. You're hoping to get a split against them. But if you're going up against Purdue-Fort Wayne the way they've looked so far, or Green Bay, then you're like, we got to get a sweep. You can't split that. I mean, you got to get a sweep. So, it changes the dynamic of how you look at the rest of your schedule.
No 2 ways about it. Rob, always a pleasure. Have fun on Christmas Day and the day after Christmas in Cleveland as the Penguins take on Cleveland State. Merry Christmas to you and the family, and we will talk next Thursday.
I look forward to it. Merry Christmas, Ron. Have a good holiday.
You as well, sir. Rob Schmidt, the play-by-play voice of the YSU men's basketball team. We'll take a timeout, be back with more. By the way, Rob Schmidt joining us on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Did not want to shortchange the good folks at MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning sponsoring the hotline. We'll take a timeout, be back in a bit. Stick around.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions, reminding you that it is open enrollment for Medicare.
Now through December 7th, those who qualify can visit our local independent agency by calling us at 330-953-3722 or visiting us at wrsinsurancesolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Attention all football fans. If you can't see your team play, come and dine with us and watch it live at Boardman, Canfield, or Cortland. Or staying at home, we'll deliver right to your door. That's Coca's Pizza. We serve it hot.
2020 will be a season like we've never seen before, but 21 Sports and YSN will be there for every key moment. The plays, the players, and the stories that will headline this season. Delivered by 21 Sports and YSN.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is here, so it's all hands on deck to make sure your plans still meet your needs for 2020.
Call us today.
I went to Greenwood Chevrolet because
I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years.
I'm really happy that I went
to Greenwood Chevrolet.
Because they really went
the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Welcome back to a Thursday edition of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Ron Potesta with you. MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business. 330-886-0813. On the network tonight, we have, we got swimming, which is going to be really cool. Boardman is hosting Massillon Jackson. Coverage begins at 4:30. One of these days, we're going to play the Know Your Swimming contest. I'll throw out a swimming style, and you tell me if it's right or if it's inaccurate. Salem Holiday Tournament getting underway tonight. Ursuline will be playing Poland in the first game. That starts at 5 o'clock. And again, that's varsity only. The nightcap will be at 7:30. The host team, Salem, will be hosting Columbiana. We have boys basketball from Struthers at the iconic Fieldhouse as the Struthers Wildcats will be hosting St. Thomas Aquinas. St. Thomas Aquinas has been a pretty significantly good basketball team through the years, and I believe they are still D4, which is a good move for them because they're going to play a game at the what we believe is going to be their home if they get to the district tournament, the Struthers Fieldhouse, because the Struthers hosts the Division IV tournament for those in St. Thomas Aquinas is in Stark County. Most of the Mahoning and Columbiana County schools go to the Fieldhouse, at least for the district semifinals and district championship. That could possibly change if the two districts mash into one like we saw in the fall. Anyway, Struthers is hosting St. Thomas Aquinas. 6:45 is the varsity start, which means 5:15 is when the JV games JV game, I should say, gets underway. Here are your 7 o'clock starts for tonight, which means the JV games start at 5:30. Fitch is going to be hosting Marlington. Canfield is hosting Dover. That could be a fun game tonight. Crestview hosting East Liverpool. This will be just the second game of the year for East Liverpool. They were beaten by Struthers 88-44 at the Fieldhouse up in Struthers on Friday night. They'll play Crestview, and I believe the Rebels are 3-3 this year. They'll play them at Rebels Gym tonight, 7 o'clock game time. Lowellville will be hosting Heartland Christian, coming off a loss on Saturday night to Valley Christian. South Range looking for their first win of the year. They're going to take on a really good Springfield team. They're unbeaten, and that should be a fun game at South Range. And Western Reserve will be hosting Camel. All of those games, it is a alleged varsity start at 7 o'clock. I say alleged because JV start at 5:30. If the game goes too long, 7 o'clock game gets pushed over. If the JV game goes short, the varsity game gets pushed up. There you go. So those are the games on the network tonight. And again, Larry Scragg and I will be doing the Crestview East Liverpool game from Rebels Gym in Crestview. All right, we'll take a final timeout, be back with more. Stick around. It's a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
Armstrong Local Programming has always delivered an exclusive and unique perspective on the very best events your region offers. High school sports, community events, parades, all your favorite shows from Armstrong are now calling the Neighborhood Channel their home.
Watch Out and About, Locally Speaking, and many other great local shows right here on the Armstrong Neighborhood Channel.
Find out everything that the Neighborhood Channel has to offer at ArmstrongNeighborhood.com. Spirit, town pride, local communities. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Right now is a great time to get more for your trade-in at Tri-State Ford and drive home in a new or pre-owned vehicle. Choose from our great selection of new Ford models or pre-owned vehicles. Plus, get the Tri-State Ford Advantage, including a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty and more. At Tri-State Ford, we'll pay you top dollar for your trade, but you don't have to purchase one of ours to sell us yours.
Customer focus, community driven. Tri-State Ford East Liverpool or visit tristateford.net.
Welcome back as we close up shop on a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Again, congratulations, Mark Asen, who was 27-45 in 7 seasons at Jackson Milton, including 2 playoff appearances for a previously never been to the playoffs before Jackson Milton Blue Jays. Final 2 seasons at the helm, he led Jackson Milton to the playoffs. Mark Asen is the new head football coach at East High School, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do at Youngstown East with the East High Golden Bears. We leave the program on a very somber note. Former Steeler great Kevin Green passing away at the age of 58. Cause of death not given. Frankly, I don't care. The fact of the matter is football has lost a really, really dominant player. He is in Canton for a reason. 3rd most sacks in the history of the National Football League, although put an asterisk next to that because, the sack wasn't mentioned until the early 80s, but still a great, great player, one of the best linebackers in recent memory. He was part of the famed Blitzburg of the 90s. He was also with the Carolina Panthers, the San Francisco 49ers. Tremendous, tremendous personality, especially his stint in WCW. He was a big fan of professional wrestling, so gone way the heck too soon. Kevin Green gone at the age of 58, and the football world certainly mourning his passing. In Canton, the Hall of Fame flag is at half staff. That tells you all you need to know about the respect level Kevin Green had with the Hall of Fame. Kevin Green gone at the age of 58. All right, DJ and the fellas doing the Power Hour. They're coming up next. Have a great rest of the day. We'll talk tomorrow. Final day before Santa makes his appearance on Thursday night, don't you know?